As the start of a new week, welcome aboard the AM show with Bernice and Benjamin. Quite a weekend it's been for some of us, but hey, we have to come and do what we do best. Welcome aboard. Now, coming up shortly, the news, and right after that, for the news review, we'll be joined by the UN Eminent Peace Ambassador, Dr. Sam Benowusu. He will be our guest. And right after that, we'll serve you sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Then we get into our big stories. You saw how we started the show today, giving you a sneak peek or, giving some explanation to why Mepe, for example, has been the worst hit in all of this Akosombo Dam spillage crisis. Well, today, we'll be talking about the victims. Some of them have received some relief items. We'll be putting everything into its proper perspective with our guests, engineer Abdullahi Mahama, a road and building consultant, Alhaj Abdullahi Adams, DCE for Pru East. Both of them will join the conversation. Also from there, in our second conversation, we'll be talking about the African Transformation Index. What is it? It's a tool for measuring the progress of African countries on economic transformation. It can assist policymakers, researchers, and developing partners in uncovering economic vulnerabilities, reinforcing resilience to various crises, and keeping Africa's transformational agenda on track. Well, the latest report delves into a number of matters, not just for Ghana, but across Africa. We'll be telling you about that as we host our guest this morning on the show. Also, we're going to be reflecting on misinformation and disinformation. A lot has been happening. Just yesterday, I got another call from someone who wanted to purchase this drug, miracle drug, supposedly from our outfit. It is not. I shared my thoughts on that on Friday. Today, we'll continue with a discussion on same. Right now, though, let's settle for the news. Up next. Time now for the news and our first story. The former General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, the late Kwejo Owusu-Efriye, popularly known as Sir John, once made the statement, "Fear delegates," in reference to how delegates can smile in pretense toward an aspirant, take his gifts and assure him of their vote, only to vote against him in the end. "Fear delegates" has since become a famous statement, especially during internal party elections in Ghana. Now, ahead of the MPP's presidential primaries on November the 4th, Joy News will be talking to delegates across the country to find out what influences their choice of a candidate. Upper East correspondent Albert Sori has today's episode from Bolgatanga.
I am here at the Upper East Regional Office of the New Patriotic Party. My mission is to speak to delegates of the party to find out what they have in mind as the party prepares to go into the November 4 presidential primaries to select a new flag bearer to lead them into the 2024 elections. Having early on informed the regional secretary of the party of my mission, these 5 delegates volunteered to meet me here for a conversation. They are constituency and polling station executives of the NPP in the Upper East region.
I am the Bolga Central Constituency Youth Organizer, and then I am a delegate.
Woman organizer, polling station woman organizer.
So you are a delegate?
I am.
I'm the constituency organizer and member of the regional communication team. I'm also a delegate.
Duru electoral area woman organizer. Yes, I'm a delegate.
I'm a polling station secretary for Zanru East electoral area. Yes, I'm a delegate, a polling station secretary.
But do they have other careers or occupations outside of politics?
Yes, I'm a farmer. I'm a farmer and I do little business. Aside that, I am a teacher by profession.
Yeah, I am a teacher by profession. I do petty trading into Lucky Soap and so many confectionaries.
I'm the proprietor of Great Minds Academy. It's a school, and I'm also a farmer. I can tell you that I'm an entrepreneur.
I'm a trader and I'm working under youth employment afforestation. Yes.
Outside of politics, I'm an accountant. I'm an accountant. I work with Ghana Education Service.
It is a well-known secret that politicians during primaries like the upcoming one often induce delegates with money, valuable items like electronic appliances, food items, and even promises of appointing the delegates to certain positions in government. So I ask these delegates of the Upper East region, would such inducements, if they are made, influence their choice of candidates to vote for in the primaries?
It's not about putting money. I am a farmer. I am a teacher by profession. I'm a businessman. Maybe the policy that the government or the candidate is bringing in place is going to influence my decision, and that is what we are standing for.
There's no amount of money that can influence my vote, because what we do, or what we the youth should be looking for, is competence. Somebody who you think he can deliver, not about money.
As a candidate, when he comes to me and gives me money, it don't solve my problem. I'm ready to go to Expert Bank for my pay. So you can't bring money to influence me.
Now, authorities at the University of Ghana have unveiled fresh plans to constitute a committee that will seek to update the historical records of Ghana's premier public tertiary institution. Now, for months, the university community has been embroiled in heated argument after President Akufo-Addo stoked public debate by calling for the renaming of the University of Ghana after Dr. J.B. Dankwa, a post-colonial politician and a founding member of his political tradition. Now, as the University of Ghana celebrates its 75th anniversary, Blessed Soga interacted with Vice-Chancellor Professor Nanaba Appiah-Ampho, who reveals that a team is working to update the historical records of the school.
The University of Ghana has been pursuing a vision to become a world-class research-intensive university, and after 75 years of that journey, many continue to bear the torch that was lit back in 1948. One of the many personalities adding to the unique blend of the university's rich culture and history is Professor Nanaba Appiah-Ampho, the first female Vice-Chancellor of the university, who I decided to engage as the school reflects on its role in nation building and development.
You're right. I'm just ending the second year of my tenure as Vice Chancellor. It's been an interesting journey, never a dull moment when you are dealing with the University of Ghana. And you know, I came into office at a very interesting time when we had the first female chancellor, the first female chair of council, and then we got the first female vice chancellor. And I must say that it's also sent a very good signal for many young women out there, right?
The Center for World University Rankings in its 2023 ratings places the premier university on top of the League of Universities in Ghana and second to Nigeria's University of Ibadan in the West African sub-region.
Of course, we are glad for these, but definitely the University of Ghana has the potential to do even more, to have a greater impact. The university has built a vibrant community over the years, its alumni, its students, its staff, a faculty. And when you are talking about the University of Ghana, everybody is interested in the University of Ghana.
As the university marks a milestone, Ghana's President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is amongst many who have called for deep introspection and acknowledgement of the selfless dedication of individuals who have contributed to the establishment of the university. According to the President, it will be wholly appropriate to describe post-colonial politician and founding member of his political tradition, Dr. Joseph Boakye Dankwa, as the founder of the university.
Now, the 7A's College of Science and Technology in Yendi in the northern region has launched its 10th anniversary. Established in 2013 to offer science courses to students in the eastern corridor of rural northern region, authorities of the school describe their existence as impactful to the growth of science in the region. Here's Martina Bugri's report.
Established in 2013, the 4 batches of former students who have graduated are currently in tertiary institutions in the country or have completed. According to the school, over 95% of their former students are pursuing various courses in the sciences at the university, including medicine, telecommunication engineering, mechanical engineering, among others. Some of the students spoke to Joy News.
I came to this school in JHS, and it has really impacted me. I studied a lot. I met teachers who were willing to help. The founder and his relatives were also willing to give to us as much as they could, and it really, really helped me even as I have progressed in life. And so this is a place that I can say has groomed me and all those who were here throughout the years.
I completed Costec in 2016, and I gained admission at St. Louis Senior High School as a science student. And from there, I furthered to University of Energy and Natural Resources, Sunyani, to study BSc Chemistry. Right now, I've successfully completed my 4-year course.
I heard about the school. When I came here, I struggled a lot because I wasn't really fitting into the system. Most of them were very smart, and I felt like I couldn't adjust, but I had motivation from most of the teachers that really pushed me to learn. Initially, I think in the South, we're not really forced to learn, but when I came here, I started studying on my own. The encouragement and all that, it really pushed me to learn. So,
a final year student at Tamale Nurses Training and Midwives Training College. I am a student nurse, and I completed in 2016.
It's been a boarding school helped me to study and find SHS more comfortable and easier for me to learn, because I started to be independent and study over here at a young age.
For Gbani Awingura Akpena and Abdullahi Nusrat Mandeya, the success their seniors have attained is inspiration for them, and they aspire to get there too.
I am very happy in Costec because Costec is a good school, and I like the way they teach us. We easily understand how they teach us, and I like the teachers and the food they cook for us.
I see. So you saw your seniors come in. How did you feel when you saw them?
I felt very excited and happy, and I saw the difference that when they were in this school and how they are now, there are differences, and that inspired me to also be like them one day. The studies are going well, the sports activities we do, the entertainment, and the food we eat. That's the reason why I like the school.
Okay, so I asked her that when she saw the seniors, how did she feel? She told me how she felt. How about you?
When I saw the seniors, I was very excited. This encouraged me more to learn hard and be like them one day.
The founder of the school, Nathaniel Adams Jr., said efforts put in is yielding results.
10 years of basic science and technology education, 10 years of producing success worth celebrating. We started this institution 2013 with a number of 18 students. By grace, our first 4 batch of students are in the university. The very first batch are completing this year. Some have just graduated. And among the first 4 batch who are in the university, and out of that, we have over 95% pursuing science and science-related courses.
The school does not only offer the students academic tuition, but they are also offering them skills training in smoke making, bead making, fish rearing, among others. The overlord of Dabon, who longed the anniversary, commended the school for the high standard it has put in place.
Actually indicated him that the school is doing well in terms of impacting knowledge into our young girls and boys.
And so we have the community.
Let's talk health now. And the Ghana Health Service is instituting measures to roll out its networks of practice approach to improve healthcare delivery through primary healthcare systems at the sub-district and community levels. Deputy Director General Dr. Anthony Adofo-Ofosu says this will deliberately strengthen the various health centers across the country by building networks of health facilities at the sub-district level to support them to work optimally to strengthen primary healthcare. And Asabit has more in this report.
Over the past 2 decades, health system strengthening at the district level in Ghana has primarily focused on community-based health planning and services and the district hospitals, to the neglect of health centers, which in the district health system are to serve as a referral link between the district hospitals, chiefs zones and the communities. This weakness is a major obstacle to the implementation of the gatekeeper system as defined in Ghana's referral policy and guidelines of 2013. To help address this, the Ghana Health Service is proposing an initiative to develop a network of practice among sub-district health facilities to improve the quality of service delivery in the health sector. Dr. Anthony Adofo-Ofosu is the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Health Services.
To address all this and ensure quality care at the lower level and ensure that the whole life course is tackled right from cradle to death, then we need to really re-engineer the way we do things now. And that's why we are thinking of, this network of practice, where the health center become the hub of the service delivery at the lower level. Currently, they are more like competing with each other. Now we want to create a system where they are jointly held responsible for the health of the population of their catchment area and work together as a team, and it will ensure efficiency.
He disclosed that the network of practice also seek to increase access to quality essential healthcare, and health centers across the country will be equipped to provide the needed services to help reduce overcrowding at the district hospitals.
With the network of practice, we are engaging them like, look here, with this, you need to change the way you do your financing so that certain conditions can be brought down, and it reduces the travel time, it reduces the stress on the district hospital, and it will end up improving the quality of care, because now the district hospital will no longer be crowded. You'll be able to handle the emergencies more efficiently and more effectively, and the overall quality of care will improve.
Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Admakoboaten, on his part, emphasized that the new network of practice would address the issue of quality, especially in some parts of the region where there are currently no district hospitals.
Even if you look at the topography of Bono East and looking at our context, where you have a lot of these facilities which serve these communities as chiefs, as community health at the community level, you wouldn't want your middle layer to be weak. Then you have all the cases. And why don't you want them to be weak? Because they cannot even go to the hospital, the district hospital. Some of the communities even don't have the district hospitals. About 4 of the districts in Bono East don't have district hospital. So it means that the concept is really going to address a major issue we are having, quality.
Regional Coordinating Director George Padmore Mensah reiterated the RCC's commitment towards helping realize this dream and asked that the various assemblies will be tasked to help provide the needed support to help achieve this.
Healthy citizens are the greatest assets any nation can have. So if we're an assembly and then we want to improve upon the quality of life of the people, health is key. And so at the next RCC meeting, Regional Minister is going to highlight on this. And there are some small support that we can give to our health facilities to be able to work effectively and efficiently. And then we are fully committed to that. I will raise it in the Minister's address, and then we'll discuss and see how the Assembly can support that.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
Now, the Ministry of Energy says the integration of renewable energy sources such as solar and wind into Ghana's energy mix has not only led to a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, but also promoted energy independence and bolstered the national grid's reliability. Minister of Energy Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh explains that transition has ushered in a new era of economic growth, job creation, and energy affordability. His speech was read at this year's Smart Energy Solutions for Africa conference. There's more in this report.
The Smart Energy Solutions for Africa conference is aimed at providing access to energy technologies and business models that are easily replicable and generate local opportunities for economic development and social cohesion in Africa. The capacity building is to facilitate the seamless integration and upscaling of proven technologies and innovative business models for sustainable and smart energy solutions at both the national and local levels. In a speech read on behalf of the Minister of Energy, Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh, by Dr. Robert Stobaji, the ministry noted that in recent years, Ghana has emerged as a beacon of hope in renewable energy transition, demonstrating its dedication to fostering a more environmentally friendly and economically robust nation.
Ghana's strides in the renewable energy sector have not gone unnoticed. International investors, research institutions, and development organizations have recognized Ghana's potential as a model for sustainable energy transition on the African continent. This recognition has resulted in partnership and collaboration that further accelerates the progress of Ghana's renewable energy journey.
The acting director for the project at the Akintin Apiaminkash University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development, Professor Isaac Boateng, outlined how useful the smart energy solutions will be for the country's energy mix.
We've also learned about the impact that unsustainable energy sources is causing to the population. In fact, we heard from one of the schools we visited that our mothers, the women that work at the kitchen, one of them was ill. He was asked to visit a hospital, and after some assessment, that woman was asked to stop smoking. And the woman said he has never smoked in her life. So what was the cause of that? Because of poor cooking energy sources, firewood, and he has inhaled the smoke over time. That is affecting her health, and the doctors identify or diagnose that possibly he has been smoking. This is the value or the input that CISA project is trying to make.
The Smart Energy Solutions for Africa is a collaborative project between the European Union and 9 African countries.
Well, there's an ongoing discussion with the Ministry of Energy. Indeed, there are several regulatory measures that are in place, but more public awareness is required to get them know those policies in the first place, as well enable financial support coming from private sector and from banks. There are 2 banks in Ghana that do work on energy, on renewable energy, and also support second life batteries, but there could be more. So financial support and the public awareness, I think, would be the main 2 takeaways.
The CISA project coordinator Magdalene Sikroska says discussions on the project must hit the ordinary people for them to understand, to help them in their decision-making processes.
And it's on that energetic note that we cap off the news this morning. But stay with us. Up next, the news review. Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for the news review. And this segment brought to us by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. You know what they offer? Prostate screening if you're a man, for free. Fertility screening if you're a woman, for free. Now here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, there's Kumasi Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji Estate, there's Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Siama and Zema. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And even as I talk about a legitimate outfit, I'll keep reiterating. We'll have this conversation later on the show, but more and more people keep calling me. Yesterday, someone I was in school with, secondary school with, way back in the day, called me about this miracle product that cures seemingly hypertension. And I had to tell him, no, these are fraudsters. That we've issued a notice on that, a public alert. So we'll keep doing this, yeah? These are fraudsters using cloning my voice, using images from here that are actually not from here, but using them for nefarious activities. These are criminals, to put it mildly. And they are peddling these drugs online, creating the impression that they are from here. They are not. So don't purchase these products. You do so at your own risk. Having said that, later maybe I'll put up the notice on TV so you see it, but let me introduce my guest to you for this morning. He is the UN's eminent peace ambassador, Dr. Sam Ben Owusu. He joins us for a conversation as we get into the papers. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Second time, yeah?
Yes. Good to have you too. You're looking great.
Thank you. It's good that though I'm under the weather, you can't see it. Yeah. That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
But now I think I can see it from your eyes.
You can see it from my eyes now.
Yeah.
Well, for God and country, these are some of the sacrifices
That's it.
Between the last time we spoke and now,
you're right.
What are some of the things you've noticed that maybe you would like to bring to the fore? Of course, there's been that flooding situation in the Volta region.
I think that's very urgent right now. You know, it's a very serious situation. And I think another one is also happening in the Bono East, and we are not talking about it at all. And even Makola fire outbreak, there are over 200.
It's not that we are not talking about it. We have.
Just that it's not serious, you know. We are really focusing on the Volta region, which we are not even doing much there, considering what we are supposed to do, expecting people to sleep in classrooms and things like that, and we just leave them like that, and we think that, oh, it's okay, we are giving them food and water and things like that. I think we could do better, much more better as a country, considering where Ghana has come so far and things like that. But do you know that day that I was here, my father passed away? As I left here, I received a news that my father died that day. That's the day.
Our condolences. I mean, what a way. Wow, I had no idea.
Well, as I was live with you, calls were coming through and things like that. So the moment I got out there, I received the news and things. But it's well, you know, it's something everybody will go through, I think. So if you have not gone through, your own is coming.
Well, everyone gets to that stage.
Right.
Lost my father when I was only 6.
Wow.
Not the best of situations.
Wow.
But
not at
life
all.
has been, God has been gracious, and life has been, gracious to us as well. Our condolences to you and the family.
Thank you. Okay.
So on the back of that, let's talk about some other matters. I have the Daily Graphic, the Daily Statesman, and the Custodian newspaper. What do you have?
Daily Guide.
The Ghanaian Times, and then?
Ghanaian Times also, and have the Publisher, and have the Finder.
Okay, let's start with the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Okay. Victims cry for more help as conditions worsen. I think it's almost the same that we are talking about.
Maybe after the headlines, we can get some of the details of that story to find out what exactly it's saying in addition to what we already know.
I think they have received some few items from government and from private individuals and organizations. I think
we've seen the tanker drivers,
things like that.
Among many other. Some have done really well.
Some
have done really well because without their effort, I don't know where this entire relief strategy would have been with NADMO and its own bottlenecks and government's own lethargic response. I don't know where.
But it's so sad. It's so sad that we have a deliberate case. We have a case that we know the implications, and yet we do not plan. We do not have a very systematic plan for such a case that we are going to create. It's a very sad situation. In other words, like you and I sitting here, if anything happens to us right now, we don't know, we don't have any system of hope where we are going to have help and things like that. And, I think that it's a wake-up call that the nation should take all this mess that we are creating for ourselves, to put up a very strong, systematic plan so that if anything happens, this is what we are going to do to help our people. Because this thing that we are doing to help them, we have to also understand that there is a lot of things that have been destroyed. A lot of things.
Some are calling for compensation.
Compensation, yes.
Some are saying that's what I'm relocated to certain. Yes. I mean, there are so many things that have been.
So many things that we really need to have a whole system, a commission or agency to look into the matter and to the plight of the people, and then also establish them. Because if you are feeding them today, what about what they have lost? Because somebody could have saved something better and things like this. Is not a problem by emergency from heaven. No, this is our national emergency. We decided to create the problem for them, and if we decided to create a problem for them, we have to decide to also set up a system that will also relieve them eternally, not just common rice and toilet rolls and things that we give to them, expecting them to clap their hands for us and things like that. And a lot of the people have not even got their shares and other things. So I think we are all calling. We are calling for a very a great intervention system where everybody will at least have something in their hands and things like that. It's a very serious case that we should not joke with it at all. Some of these cases can create an insurgency. Some of these
they can create insurgency.
Yes. Some of
these cases, they can destabilize our national security.
Right.
How so?
Hungry. You deny them of their right. And you take them from their place, and you are not taking good care of them. And this is not like something that they just wake up for it to happen. No. This is what a whole nation planned. We are all at fault. We knew this case would come.
Some would tell you that it has been a long time, about 50 years since there was the scale of a disaster. Do you get it? The spillages happened year on year.
Yes.
And the engineers would also tell you that at a point, the pressure of the water on the Akosombo Dam was so intense that the dam was virtually vibrating. It was pulsating. You get it? The same way
we have to do it.
So we had no option. But the question is, when you do that, what are the consequences? What are the measures that are put in place to ensure that these things do not happen? So it doesn't happen this frequently that it overtakes communities.
We are aware.
But it has happened before. And it has happened again.
And we are even aware. And they had a projection, system that they were aware that this thing was going to happen. And you were listening to one of the directors and things like that from VRA saying that, the people are aware. We told them that when the water is coming, they should find their way. Like how? How do you tell them when the water is coming, they should find their way from which country? Where are you telling them to go?
Very difficult situation to deal with now is the water. Now, there are burial sites, cemeteries, other places, rubbish.
And the water has taken
all of this. Now, the water in that, the mass of water has become polluted, contaminated. Some people have been cautioned not to use them for anything.
Right.
But this also means that even when the waters recede, this could create a health emergency, cholera, among other things that the people likely would face. And their structures themselves, with water overtaking their structures for this long, the structural integrity
of the buildings, their houses,
some have already collapsed.
Their shops,
some have already collapsed. So
looking at all this,
it's quite a disaster.
I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just asking. Couldn't we have created another artificial dam somewhere? Since we know the volume of the water is such a huge, because we heard that Kwame Nkrumah created artificial dams and things like that. Look at the Samine, Ajay Kojo area. I think we could have done something better like that.
What has come into sharp focus has been the fact that there are even times when we have dry spells and the Akosombo Dam itself needs water. So at the time when you have excess water, it's like in the Bible when Joseph narrated Pharaoh's dream. Right?
You are telling them that we are going to...
In the time of bumper harvest,
it's a very serious
you store, and then in the time of need, you release. In our case,
and use it.
The water comes and we waste it. And there are times when we actually
what about next year? We wake up next year and we are not going to have this water again. Then we cry again that, oh my God. we are in trouble as a nation.
Well, I guess it all boils down to
it's a very serious
leadership and thinking in this country. And again, it will always take you back to...
We have the expert.
We do.
Qualified expert.
So why they can't think outside of the box, or maybe to be fair to them, maybe, because I've heard some of them talk about some solutions. Maybe if you proffer a solution and you don't have the logistics to execute, that is also another point. But it just gets you reflecting sometimes. You just mentioned the artificial dams and the rest. Nkrumah forethought all of these.
Right.
And how many? About 60 years on.
Yes, we still
can't think along those lines. It's pathetic, but
very, very pathetic.
Anyway, so other stories from the Ghanaian Times newspaper?
Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Are there any other stories you'd like to take?
Always at forefront of African unity. Yeah. So Ghana has been tagged as a beacon of democracy in Africa. And indeed, we are trying. We have really, really tried our best. But I think we should do more, especially looking at the intolerance system. I should read some more. Okay.
So you can give us some details of the story.
Okay, the page 13. Ghana always has the forefront of Africa unity. Ghana ambassador to Germany, Gina Amable, has stated that Ghana has traditionally been at the forefront of activities aimed at promoting African unity and development. She cited Ghana's participation in the Compact with Africa initiative as evidence of the country's conviction in the transformative power of collaborations and partnership. Addressing the Africa Insight event organized by Africa Verein in Wednesday, Mrs. Blaze said the G20 Compact with Africa is more than just a paper proposal. It's a pledge that offers a brighter future for millions throughout the continent. It's a pledge to bring about macroeconomic stability, business reforms, and robust financing structures that can catalyze a new era of private investment in Africa, especially in the realms of infrastructure development, she said. Mrs. Blaze stated that this year, as the conference shifts its focus to policy issues with business relevance in Africa, it was critical for stakeholders to understand the broader implications of G20-led cooperations with 12 African countries, including Ghana. It's our belief that the Compact will continue to serve as a platform to address political actors within both parties, synchronizing country-specific reform plans and promoting investment opportunities, which will serve as a block for a prosperous Africa, she noted. According to her, Germany G20 presidency in 2017 was a turning point for the Compact. So, yeah.
So interesting dynamics in there, quite a number of things she actually has to say. And what are your thoughts on what she's saying?
Yeah, I think that now if you look at the world is looking at Africa as a center for democracy and things that for the next development of the world. And everybody is trying to come here. So I think that our democracy is very important, maintaining and sustaining the system of democracy in this part of the world, especially Ghana, because looking at the issues that are happening in neighboring countries and things like that, we really need to maintain it so strong to the extent that all these implementations will now be channeled through Ghana to the rest of African countries and things like that. G20 focusing on Ghana investments and things like that. It's a great deal. And if we have the whole G20 coming to have a conference in Ghana, that's a great deal for Ghana. Yeah. That's a great deal for Ghana. So we thank God for such upliftment, but we pray that small things that is happening here to deal with it. The intolerance that we are dealing with, the media and all those things, we have to deal with them because these things are signals, that really takes away all this investment and the programs and things like that. Thank you.
Right before you get into the daily guide, let me bring in the daily graphic and what it has to share. Tertiary Business Sense Challenge, University of Education with about our 2023 champions. There's also UPSA Congregation, Utilize Technology for Growth. Editor graphic urges youth. At Cabinet Retreat, government will spend within means next year. That's according to Information Minister Kojopo Nkrumah. Implement low-cost drug policy, Medical and Dental Council tells government. On the back page, sports, Nations FC and Kotoko split points, and that's how it actually ended in that contest. It was a 2-2 drawn game. FC Samatex hold hearts in Accra as well. That one, also a goalless draw. So if you look at the league table right now, Nswatriman is on top after having played 5 games with 10 points, followed by Samatex, Bofuakwa, RTU, Aduana FC, Olympics, Kotoko down in 7th. And let's see, Hearts of Oak down at 15th, in the 15th place. I don't know what exactly is happening to our own Krobia Asante Kotoko and the Never Say Die boys, Accra Hearts of Oak. It's been a turbulent 2 years or so for those teams, but well, history gives them some backing. Let's see how it goes with them. But this one, implement low-cost drug policy. The Medical and Dental Council has called on the government to implement a policy that will help reduce the high cost of medicines in the country. At the induction of 508 newly qualified doctors in Accra last Saturday, the chairman of the MDC, Professor P.K. Nyame, said the cost of medicines had made quality healthcare a luxury and out of reach of many people, especially the aged and the poor. He therefore urged the government to vigorously support local manufacturers to enable them to produce drugs on a large scale to bring down the cost of medicine. You see, this is one of the areas that has got India, for example, very prominent. You may say that a lot of the time they are producing generic drugs, but generic drugs also serve a good purpose, and they have the industry, and it's contributing to their economy. Why can't we replicate that here? Recently, I was hearing something about vaccine production and all of that. All a good step. It took COVID-19 to wake us up.
Yeah.
You get it. And you look at the high cost of medicine now. A lot of people meet me and they say, my national health card doesn't do, it does practically nothing for me. It does very little for me. I've had people say, oh, it's only the paracetamol and this and that that it covered. The greatest part or bulk of the cost had to be, taken by me. I took the hit.
Very expensive in this country.
Now, some places are also, some medical outfits don't get payment early from the National Health Insurance Authority. So guess what they do? When you go, they are not willing to use your National Health Insurance card. They want you to, so it's become cash and carry.
They have created, they have established pharmacies by themselves.
Yes.
So they will send you to their pharmacies.
Send you to their pharmacies.
Things like that.
Their laboratories. And it's
because the national, it's not really helping them. You have a bulk of chunks of money that have not been paid to them. So they have to also get money to run their companies and things like that. So whilst we are considering this, we need to also look into the system, how we'll be able to help our hospitals and things to become better.
Let's look at some other stories. There's Bazoum's escape foiled. Do you remember the Nigerian president? There was the claim that he had tried to escape with some members of his family. His lawyers say that was not the case, but that's how the cookie has crumbled. I wonder why it would get to the point where a leader would have to be incarcerated or,
in Africa.
And then,
in Africa.
But I mean, this is not to justify in any way what has happened with the military junta, but I'm saying that, can you even think in some jurisdictions of people's rising up or the military rising up in certain parts of the world and saying, we've taken over and all of that? It's not even a thought that would cross anybody's mind because the right systems are in place. Unfortunately, in many parts of Africa, that is not the case.
Yeah, that's the problem we have in Africa. We have not established institutions so strong to defend our democracy and defend our elections and the choices of the people. Our system or our democracy landscape is controlled by the people in charge, the people that is in government. That is not so. The institutions should be so much strong enough that they can tell you that, sit down, my friend, you can't just come here just like that. That's what is happening in our Western world. Their institutions are so strong to defend the Constitution. No matter who you are, you can't just wake up and say you want to do whatever you want to do. And so I think that it's a wake-up call to all of us that we should establish a very strong institution. We don't need President Bush to come here or President Obama to come and tell us. And even after he told us, we are still having the same problem and things like that. When you go to America, president come, president go. Police is police. The
system is the system.
The system is the system. It's not about any government controlling whatever happened. It's the system. It's the system. But here it's not like that. The government controls everything. Our political landscape is very, very different.
It's not the system, it's the individual.
It's the individual.
Or the group of individuals. And that's why Obama said we don't need strong men.
We need
strong institutions. And even in terms of the strength, they are not doing the things that maybe you may contemplate a Lee Kuan Yew and say he was strong or tough in that way. That's not the kind of strength
No.
It's strength in corruption and strength in everything negative.
The system can make even a weak man to lead them. A sheep will be leading lions because the system is so strong.
Well, let's look at the system. Kojo Ponkroma, the information minister, is briefing journalists over the weekend. He mentioned at the cabinet retreat that government was pleased with the steady progress of the economic recovery program, dubbed the post-COVID-19 program for the economic growth, and was therefore determined to do everything possible to improve on it. Now, he's basically saying that cabinet has decided the government would not expend resources on any new project or program in 2024, which it would not be able to find the resources to execute. Rather, and I was going to talk about Agenda 111, rather he said the government would focus on the completion of existing projects such as the Agenda 111 hospital projects and further improve the fiscal fundamentals for the intended economic growth. The verdict is out on whether we'll even be able to complete Agenda 111. That's the question. From the practical end of things, from what experts, not I, what experts have said
within a space
on
of 1
that
year.
issue.
Within a space of 1 year.
Let's see what happens.
Let's
Some
pray,
have said that
pray.
we have so many medical. I remember there was it in Bolgatanga or somewhere like that, in the children's ward. I did this for my blunt thoughts one day. A snake, venomous snake, was in the pediatric, ward. An outfit that had not seen any sort of refurbished.
It's coming for a checkup.
The snake was coming for a checkup. That tells you how bad the situation is.
Right.
The University of Ghana Medical Center, top notch, world class.
Right.
But if you go there, you need the wherewithal. You get it. We need that to be replicated across the country. But the cost reduced rather than having a wanton wholesale. We like doing mass things without looking at quality.
Right.
And it's a big problem.
Right.
And maybe our leaders can learn from Mother Teresa. The Daily Graphic quotes her today. She says, "Don't look for big things. Just do small things with great love. The smaller the thing, the greater must be our love." But our leaders, in and out, they like to talk big and do little.
Imagine Kumasi, imagine Ashanti region, Konfanochi, and then we have another like that.
Imagine having about two of those.
Two of those
in every region.
In every region.
Two of those.
The
Volta
region. My God. We don't need the small plenty that we cannot really manage them. Go to many various small hospitals. They don't even have the basic amenities and the basic things that will help somebody to be treated there. So it's like, what you are saying. We only pray every day. We pray that Ghana will be better.
But prayer
alone does not just bring betterness. We need to work. We need to think.
Miracles happen when people believe and act upon the belief. It's not just believing.
So I explain faith as believing and behaving. We need to believe and behave it. That's what faith is. So if we are believing it and you don't behave it, you have missed the equation of faith.
Blessed are those who have not yet seen, but believe. But at the same time, what is the action on the back of that belief? Without that action, nothing will happen.
Faith without works
is dead. So-called Bible-believing people, and people will always tell us about how other nations who may not necessarily believe what we believe are making strides. I don't believe in denigrating religion, but belief without action is nothing. It's as though, assume God had, planned for your life that you will become UN Secretary General.
So you see.
But you decide not to go to school.
But live in the village.
You decide to. You could even be picked from the likes of Nkrumah from Nkrumah and everything. But you don't do the things that will put you in in the position to be that. You will never be that. And it's the same with our national life. We keep saying, you know, oh, Ghana, Nigeria. I remember, I think in the 80s, Professor Chinua Achebe of blessed memory wrote a book, The Problem with Nigeria. If you pick that book and you read it today and you reflect on Ghana and Nigeria, the picture from the 80s that he wrote of is the same. Nothing
the same
has changed.
Today. The same till
Nothing has changed.
The same till today. The same till today. The same till today.
Let's head to the Middle East. British PM meets, I'm talking about Rishi Sunak, meets Palestinian and Egyptian leaders, you know why. And then humanitarian aid starts entering Gaza, crossing from Egypt. What do you think about the latest, back and forth, if you like, between Hamas and the IDF, Israel and Palestine? Quick thoughts on that so we can...
This issue is not today. This issue had been predicted many years ago. My problem is how we have not been able, the world have not been serious on it to be able to put a stop to the happenings today. And
you think an abrupt stop can be brought to it? It's one of the world's intractable conflicts.
That's it. We could have solved it. We could have solved it. I know where I'm coming from.
How?
There are certain things I cannot just bring it out. That's why I'm just...
But how? How could we have solved it?
We could have solved it by, sitting down with both of them. And because nations have had problems with demarcations of lands and properties and things like that. And the United Nations have been able to deal with such matter. Because human beings are very important than any other thing. And therefore, when it comes to anything that human beings are going to be afflicted or being destroyed, we should do everything possible. We should be able to implement everything resources that we have to make sure that we save the life of people. This is not just today matter. This is something that has been there. It's a documented issue that it will come. In fact, it was about 3-4 years.
Are you making biblical allusions?
No.
Okay.
Not biblical allusions alone. Even though I have a key into that, but I think that something better should have been done. Than seeing people dying and seeing people.
What do you think can be done? Because the way things are, it's basically it's a mutually exclusive. It is either this or that. I have heard groupings also say these people must go; they must not be here. The other one.
That's why I'm very careful. I'm very careful because of where I'm sitting. Tricky. Because of where I'm sitting too, I'm very careful in trying to put the judgment on that. So,
well, we'll leave it there.
Right.
I see it's a thorny subject for you. Let's get into other papers. You have the Daily Guide let's wrap up with the papers you have.
2.37 million euros payment for the ambulance was in error. Tekpa police chase task force commander shooter. Ghana Rwanda top Africans health insurance coverage. Wait. If we top,
did you just go way when you read that?
If we top Africa, we should be topping the world, not the top Africa, because Africa.
Well, you'll be told you start from somewhere. Anyway, we're on the continent, so but we could take them too.
But at least we've done well. At least we've done well in our insurance system and things. But I think we could do far much more better.
Okay.
And looking at this issue, it's in court.
The ambulance issue.
It's in court. So sometimes it's very dicey talking about it. But I think one of the things I would say about this is, if you read through or I should go through it.
You can read some portions.
Okay, former Minister of Finance has admitted that payment for the defective ambulance, for which his then deputy, Dr. Kessel Atufosin, is standing trial, was made in error. Wow. Anyway, it's in court. But the fact of the matter is, in this country, we can just order things just like that without any checks and legal framework being put to place, and nobody is checking whoever is doing whatever. That's very serious. If these things happen and it runs through almost all our department and all our sectors in this country. This one is coming out today, but there are hundreds of thousands of these issues that are happening in our ministries every day. to the detriment of the people, the tax payment people that are paying money, and people are sitting down there issuing orders and doing things without any, whatever.
He has given some explanations on the matter, but the point also remains that these ambulances were deemed defective, not fit for purpose.
Yes.
I remember there was a time when Kasilato Forsen wanted to aid in payments that had to be made, or some, if memory serves, some arrangements to be made. But the point also is that, should anyone be treated with kid gloves when the wrong thing is done? I remember the former Minister for Health, Alex Segbefia, was supposed to testify at a point. We'll see how this pans out. But the point is that any losses to the state that do not, of course, were brought to bear on the back of irresponsibility must be dealt with. In fact, the Daily Statesman also gets into that. It talks about the fact that, according to the former finance minister, he has conceded there are no records that show that he authorized Dr. Kasilato Forsen to request the Bank of Ghana to establish letters of credit as payment for the importation of ambulances in 2014. The LCs were for the benefit of Big C General Trading Limited, a Dubai-based company that supplied defective ambulances to Ghana, resulting in what has become known as the Ato Forsen fake ambulances scandal. But Setekpe made the no records concession under cross-examination by Attorney General Govt in a case made against Dr. Ato Forsen for causing financial loss to the state. So he says there are no records.
There are no records. There are no records.
Let's see how that story pans out.
I think
any other stories to look at?
Men's Gold said he have paid their customers.
There were some 5 million. I heard of some 5 million.
Yeah.
Can you get into some detail on that story as we wrap?
Ghana Gold Collectible Company, Men's Gold Ghana Limited, has announced a successful transaction verification exercise resulting in the first bulk payment of 5 million Ghana cedis. The exercise, which according to the company was conducted from August 10 to September 14, 2023, enabled Men's Gold to make payment, which is its first tranche to client. In a statement signed by Men's Gold Chief Executive Nana Appiah Mensah, popularly known as NAM1, the company said it is also set to complete the full refund of the 82 clients which purchased the Men's Gold verification digital access card prior to the company's grant of the same for free. Okay.
I don't even want to talk about this Men's Gold thing anymore. I am the mere fact that these things can even happen in our country.
Right, in our country.
That I don't want to get into it. The mere fact.
The mere fact
that these things can happen points to.
And it has taken us almost 7 years for us to be able to retract the money from this man. So if he has this money all this time, we could do this thing. Why didn't we do it before time?
That's the big question.
And a lot of people have died. A lot of people have lost their job. Companies have collapsed. Enterprises have been shut down. Offices have been destroyed. Okay? Children have died.
Lives have been lost.
Lives
people
have been
committed
lost.
Suicide.
People have committed suicide. We knew this thing and we didn't ask him to do it.
God bless our homeland.
For 7 years.
Doc, we're grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Sam Benowusu is a UN Eminent Peace Ambassador. He's been our guest as we've delved into the papers this morning. As we go, a credible, legitimate health institution, not some of those being peddled on Facebook with these criminals using our images like mine. And if you see them, don't patronize them. But for this one, we are advertising it. It is Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Where can you find them? Across the country, here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrady Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzema. If you'd like to call them, the numbers are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. We're starting with sports, and there's a lot in that world that we're bringing you up next with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Do stay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. In the Ghana Premier League, there was drama aplenty, especially at the Kwame Chase Sports Complex, where Nations FC hosted Kumasi Asante Kotoko. The Porcupine Warriors, who were losing, needed to come back from behind to lead the game by 2-1. But referee Latif Adare awarded a penalty to Nations FC deep into added time as Nation FC drew parity as the game ended 2-2.
Who are playing from left to right. Kotoko in their traditional all-red outfit. Yeah, another of those games which was nearly marred by the red. The corner kick is on there! Nations FC in the right place at the right time. Out of nothing. Situation. That is a breakthrough for the home team. That is Hamid Udiara. Look at that jump. Hesitant defense of Asante Kotoko. And he was completely unmarked in the box, and he punishes the Porcupine Warriors. Vienna Stars were leading Accra Red Olympics by 2-1. I guess that game has come to a halt. And another opportunity. Oh, this time free kick. It's Augustin Ejepong blocked by goalkeeper. Oh! Goalkeeper tested twice, and eventually. This time around, Kadu Watara did not make any mistakes. 2 times, Rabin made the save. He got up, but third attempt is definitely not going to get that one. Stephen Mukwala had the final contact. Watara took it, and Mukwala Deze had the final contact. And pushes it forward. Another opportunity. Dese still has the ball. This on the pass. Lamptey through the middle. This is good. This is Asante. He was on mark. First touch. He was trying to bring down Michael Yeboah. But there's a clutch there. Chance for Nations. Appeal for the penalty. It definitely won't hold. Opportunity resulting in that penalty. That lad comes out 50 for Nations FC. Piara is ready and he goes 1, 2, 3. Picks his spot. And Nations are back in the game. How he took it. Brilliant conversion. Sure, that was nicely done. Yes, absolutely. The power behind it, the confidence behind it.
Now let's talk about Accra Hearts of Oak. They were held to a 0-0 stalemate at the Accra Sports Stadium by Summertech 1996 FC. Well, head coach of the team, Martin Koopman, says it is not only his club that is struggling to score goals, but even the senior national team, the Black Stars, are struggling to find the back of the net.
Yeah, I think we deserved 3 points over winning, but now you see we come a lot of times now in the box, so we did a lot of training about this. Nice sessions, the boys fight for their life, and I think we have 2 times 45 minutes control about the game. Only finishing on this moment is the question now. But if we continue to do this, it will be happen for sure.
When I checked on my statistics board, you had over 60% of the possession. How do you intend to translate this dominance in possession into goals so that you can be winning games?
Yeah, to give them confidence and take every time what we did the 14 days now before this match, every time to come in the box and from up behind to build up in the midfield on the wingers and the strikers. We did a very good job, but we wait for the goal, and that's what we need.
Hamza started today and he really impressed. He had a very good game. Your impressions about his performance?
Yeah, sure. I'm very happy for him. If I see him jumping and I see some things from Romario, the Brazilian player, so I'm very happy. Look, there is a deep problem in Ghana football. I will tell you in short time.
What is the problem?
The problem is also in the national team, wingers and strikers. I keep it saying And it's not only with us, also in the national team, also in the other clubs. And then you say, yeah, other clubs score. Reality say, we have 5 points.
This team belongs to the fans.
Yeah.
They get disappointed when they don't get the results. What are you telling them after this draw?
Yeah, what can I tell? We will do everything to win games. Actually, they must come and look how we work with the boys. And I think I am not the problem. And also not the players. They give everything. But we need experience and we need actually a goal. And then we step over the problem.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories, and it's been more than a week since communities along the Volta River were flooded following the spillage of the Akosombo Dam. Victims have been given a variety of relief items to ameliorate their plight, like you saw in that conversation with Carlo Caloni. Today, we put everything into perspective with our guests, and we're going to be taking it from the technical angle and the angle of those who have been on ground to experience what has happened. Joining the conversation, road and building consultant, engineer Abdullahi Mahama. He's on the beat. We also have Alhaj Abdullahi Adams joining the conversation, together with Bernard Mornah, who actually has been on the ground. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, Chief.
It's good to have you join the conversation. Bernard Mornah, of course, is convener for Arise Ghana. He joins the conversation as well. I'll start with you, Bernard. You've been on ground. There's been a lot of talk about military officers leaving the scene around the South Tone area, or Mepe in some instances. That has been debunked by the armed forces, that there had to be redeployment on the back of some challenges. There's also the situation on the ground. People lacking the logistics of basic life. Some of them have received items, but the figures have shot to over 30,000 from the last time we checked. What is your view of what has happened since this incident took place and the reliefs that have been brought to bear? Bernard, I'll start with you, since you've been on the ground.
Thank you very much. Yesterday, a team of Arise Ghana, supported by Accra FM, went on a visit. We first met at the Sugakope, that is the coordinating center for all the tongues, that's the 3 tongues. Fortunately, the chiefs, the MPs, and of course the DCs were meeting to review and also to assess what ought to be done. And in the meeting at the Sugakope, the district assembly, the chiefs reiterated their appeal to central government to make available the Sakleme housing project to accommodate most of the people that are displaced, because the conditions in which these people find themselves in their current displaced camps is simply inhumane conditions that they find themselves. Second, it was also evident when we went to particularly New Bakbo area, where the chief of Abadjue and others in that island were completely displaced, and all of them had to move to New Abadjue. They also told us clearly that, look, less than 2% of support has come to them, the requirements they need. And you could see mothers, and if you watch some of the videos, you could see me, when I got there, children were already hungry, they were crying. So some of the cereals that we took there, instantly we had to get some prepared for the kids to participate in getting something, a meal. And then I had to personally go around consoling some of the kids. You know, it was teary if you were in the circumstances that I found myself yesterday. Of course, I was there with Bodie Answer. I was there with Listo Well. We were there with Nana Ama, also of Accra FM. We were there with Lee and Francis. And so all these people, look, at a certain point in time, you simply had to give up and say, look, this is inhumane. And these people also made a passionate appeal to government to look at settling them temporarily, and that some of them have passed through the Sagleme housing project, and they don't understand why they are being treated like they are not Ghanaians. Now, when we moved, particularly to the 14 islands that have been cut off, that is at Mafi, the Vime, we crossed the river or the lake, you know, in their local goods in order to get to Memphis, the Vime. When we got there, the chiefs also expressed their worry that, unfortunate for them, and indeed that was true, when we even carried some small relief items, water, sanitary pads, particularly for our women, we got to the boats and we could not carry any heavy weight. We carried just a few sanitary pads because for me that was a concern for particularly the women that were cut off. And so the rice, the cereal that we carried, the water, we had to leave them at the back because the boats that we're using, there were only about 3 boats and all of them were occupied. We could not have carried the loads to go and give to the people in Mafe Devime. And when you got to Mafe Devime, you realize that, look, whole houses have been submerged. In fact, when we took one of the canoes, we actually crossed the roof, right? The water had consumed the entire house that the canoe passed on top of the roof of the house. So you could see the house below. And such a house, even after the water could have receded, it is evident that the house can.
Bernard, it appears the connection is not as good as we would have it, but we'll try to reconnect with you. Let me bring in Engineer Abdullahi Mahama as well. From where you sit, from the engineering perspective, there are challenges in that community in terms of their roads, and everything has been inundated with water. But from the perspective of the spillage, as an engineer, what is your reading of this situation?
Please come again.
From the perspective of the spillage by the VRA, from an engineering perspective, what is your reading of this situation? I ask because some have said, while such flooding may not be the norm year on year, we have to have mechanisms in place from an engineering perspective which would forestall these. There's also been talk about using the water, and there are times when Akosombo is virtually dry, yet we have huge masses of water now, and we don't have any use for them until the next time comes, and we are now calling for water. That's the perspective I'm coming from.
Okay, well, I'm sure that we have been giving a lot of information in regards to the global warming and its effects. Let me just situate it in context so that at least viewers would appreciate the discussion very well. Let me say a good morning to your cherished viewers, yourself and my panelists who are on Zoom. Quite recently, we have received reports from the United States of America, New York, Germany, France have received their fair share of the floodwaters inundating, surprisingly, some of the areas that had never received any of such reports before. Quite recently, in July, China received the highest flood ever in their history from 1883. So 140 years record. It happened in July, I think July 30th, 2023. And then what happened recently in Libya, where over 22,000 people have died as a result of high precipitation of water inundating the surface of the earth. That got the dam to collapse in Libya, and the report we are reading from the experts indicated that at the maximum capacity of the Libya dam, the management were not proactive enough. They would have saved the dam at the same time saving the human beings who were at the lower belt of the dam. they would have had minimum loss of life, even though one life is very important. But 22,000 lives is just not what we expect to have. So that is what has happened in Libya. So in situating this in the context, Africa in totality is receiving the brunt of the harsh weather. Meanwhile, we contribute quite insignificant to the depletion of the ozone layer. So that is where we are. And so when our leaders go for their summits, they have to keep on drumming home the reason why USA and China may have to be contributing some monies to the African community where they are receiving the brunt of what is happening in those developed countries.
Engineer Mahama, pardon the intervention, but I was at the Global Climate Adaptation Summit last year in the Netherlands, and some of these matters came up. The countries you mentioned have not lived up to expectation in terms of the billions that have been promised. If you have a problem, when you have a problem, you don't just deal with what you expect others to do. You deal with what you can do, what is within your capacity. What is within our capacity are some control mechanisms. Now, the point is that we've not really done much when it comes to such situations and the measures in place to curtail them. What we are seeing in Mefe and different parts of the Volta region could have been contained better. People could have been better informed. The spillages, some have said, could have been, initiated much better. I mean, and even the water we're speaking of, the water. Are we saying that there are no mechanisms, no ways of putting this water to use such that year on year these must be done? Someone was just mentioning to me about Nkrumah and artificial dams and how there were, ideas about channeling some of this water. Some 60 years on. Where are we? So is it? Yes. Are we still going to be blaming the Western powers for our woes?
Yes. So I've given you what I wanted to say about across the globe, what is happening. I'm coming to Ghana. Whatever we need. In fact, from last week, I've done a lot of this discussion on the sister stations. Whatever we need is that when you are constructing a dam, you look at the topography of the land before you're able to impound water. Fortunately for us, the Creator created the mountains like the gorges. And then it was much easier for us to impound the water with the design of the dam to fit the gorges. Now, that dam that you see there is over 400 kilometers. That's the water it contains. In fact, the surface area of that water is about 3.5% of the total surface area of Ghana. Now, let me come into what is happening. So, people are speaking about the fact that the engineers may not have done their work. What it means is that when you come from the spillage point of the dam towards the coastal belt, there is another buffer dam, which is the pond dam, which takes the residue or the tailings of the dam to also generate some power, as well as Ghana Water Company Limited harnessing the water for supply of water in the country. Now, that topography of the Pond Akuse area to the sea is just 3 meters. If you are dealing with 70 kilometers of distance from the Pond Akuse Dam to the sea, it's like the land is flat. 3 meters per 70 kilometers is a flat land. So the only thing you can do upstream is that in the years to come, or like you said, the management may have planned earlier. I've suggested on TV and radio that we would have to create better irrigation dams along the 3 tributaries of the Akosombo, which is the Volta Lake, the White Volta, the Black Volta, and then the OT. Last 2 weeks Wednesday, when we were checking the pattern of the water in the Yape area, Bupe area, it has already flooded. It's because we are receiving quite an uncontrolled amount of water. And for me as an engineer, I would just not condemn what information we've had from the VRE, okay? They have a chart, a dam chart that they use across the globe to be able to know that with the information given to them from the Meteorological Service Department, we are expecting a volume of such amount of water into our lake to the dam to operate. Now, last year, for instance, they were given a certain weather pattern. They preempted that they were going to do spillage. But at the end of the day, they did not receive that volume of water. So you see that there's a probability. In fact, the World Meteorological Service Department has something they call the limo season. Now, the limo season is that they predicted that this year they were going to have quite a amount of rainfall. But they were not so predictive with the fact that they would have it at a sustained level. It may just come once and the rest will not be there. So the VRA uses the dam chart to be able to know that we are receiving X amount of water into the dam and we are taking X away. I'm not supporting the VRA by saying that they couldn't have done a lot of work with the government itself, with the Pualugu Dam, and then along the tributaries, create other dams that may receive some of the volume of water coming from upstream, downstream. But anything below the Volta Lake, below the Akosombo Dam, the only one that has been able to get some of the water is the Akosombo Dam. What government can do is to be able to create, in this case, an underground big buffer, okay, that the water will be intercepted, quite a volume will be intercepted, and then the rest will flow to the sea. But when you are following the chart, per what in fact, the discussion I've had personally with some of my engineer colleagues who are at the dam and things, if they do not spill the water like they have said earlier, we may lose the two things. We know that we are losing, people are being displaced in their homes. But it got to a time that they were not so accurate in their prediction of the water that they've been receiving. So if you hold the dam would collapse on its own. And that means that almost all the 9 communities downstream would have been wiped out of the map of Ghana, which we cannot fathom. So even though we are having this pain of trying to see what our sisters and brothers are going through, it's a necessary evil that may have to be taken. Otherwise, in preventing what you are trying to prevent, the dam would go and then everything will be washed away. Mind you, that dam is holding a water which is, in fact, if every human being in the world is given 2 sachets water from that dam, it can feed the whole of the world for 40 years and above. That is the magnitude of what we are thinking about. I'm not in any way happy or in support of whatever may have gone wrong, but I'm just giving you what information I had and the investigation I've done, that this is a necessary evil that has come. Meanwhile, the VRA, per the information that we've gathered, had a simulation exercise somewhere in May. They started having this indication like November last year, 4th November last year. Then somewhere in May, they engaged the service of the assemblymen and women of the communities, but the magnitude cannot be exactitude. So we have a problem that we can find out how we can impound the water upstream before it gets to the Akosombo Dam. But when you get to this area, the topography said that you cannot harness so much water downstream that can take us out completely of what is happening. So now that we are aware that, in fact, we're going to have some of these things happening almost every now and then because of the climate change. We may have extreme droughts or extreme rainfall. But in the event where we have extreme rainfall, how then should government engage the engineers, not necessarily the VRA only? I mean, there are qualified engineers here who are into dams and things. How would we engage them to look at the tributaries that are coming upstream to downstream, that we can now create more or less like a dam which may be empty, that in the event of spilling outside, we are now rather absorbing the water by opening such gates when it's properly designed to collect the water before the total volume get to the Akosombo enclave itself.
Engineer Mahama, so let's hold a bit on that, because we'll come to that when we start proffering solutions and the way forward. And that's a brilliant example you've just mentioned. But let me bring in Seji Saji, who is Deputy Director General Technical at NADMO. Mr. Seji Saji, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you and your cherished listeners.
It's good to have you. I've heard you share some thoughts on this matter, but I'll start from what the state of relief for these people currently is. I've heard some of your officials talk about the work you've been doing. Please bring us up to date. What has been provided so far by way of NADMO to our brothers and sisters in the affected areas?
Well, thank you very much. It is still continuous relief administration going on in all states. It is only Ada that is doing cooked food, which will end maybe by close of today. We have the affected person is everything to cook. So dry rations will be distributed, I'm sure, as of tomorrow. But all other places, we are doing the the dry ration because the people they put themselves in groups, and it is continuous distribution up because we don't know when this is going to end yet. We are only hoping that we may be recording maybe less loose, so that will mark the beginning of this coming to an end. And as I've already said earlier, that even when it comes to an end, because of the level of inundation, it is looking like it will take quite some time for the water to recede and dry up. Even when that is done, before the people can move back to their houses, I'm sure some work needs to be done before. They may be in this safe building for quite some time, and the relief administration must, because we do what we call rapid assessment, and based on this assessment, when the need arises, we try as much as possible to meet those needs of those people at the safe building, so that at least we will not have another problem at our hands in those safe buildings.
In terms of logistics, what is the state of your kitty, so to speak?
Please take that again.
Logistics, do you have all you need as NADMO to tackle this problem?
Well, that is why I said it is based on the assessment that we know.
So based on the assessment you have made so far, do you have what you need?
Yes. A lot of issues have come up, issues of mobile toilets, issues of polytanks, issues of mobile clinics, issues of water systems, and we are addressing them as we get along. So right now we have quite a number of the mobile toilets in the system now. We have the polytanks also in most of the safe havens. The challenge is to get water into them. We have found a way around it now. On the main safe haven, the bigger safe haven, that is St. So yesterday, we were able to complete the first part of the access route that can take heavy trucks and cars into the safe haven so that they can be used to deliver items for the people.
In terms of the numbers, we were looking at, initially we heard 6,000, shot up to about 21,000, now 26,000, and now we are looking at over 31,000 people. How are you containing them? Yes, you've spoken about some of these other mechanisms, but how are you containing them, and are you able to reach all of them?
Yes, since it's an unfolding situation, we keep recording affected victims. It is just that the rate of we recording the affected victim has reduced, but the numbers still coming in. We had the 31,000 as of 3 days ago. Today we'll be doing a review this morning. Some numbers have come in, especially from Ada, that is able to put some figures on the displaced persons who are living with friends and family. So we'll be up in about an hour or two, we'll put out the latest figures. The challenge, as I've always said, we are gradually dealing with, is dealing with those who are living in family. We are working through the assemblyment, as I've always said, stakeholders in all the communities to identify them. And as we identify them, we administer relief to them.
So if I were to ask you, as of today, what is the plan? What is the roadmap? What can we expect to be done in those communities? Especially as the Ghana Meteorological Agency is telling us that rains can be expected in those areas. As we speak now, per the reports we are getting, it's pouring in Akosombo, Somanya, and other areas. And that is also going to impact further spillage, likely. So what is the roadmap for today?
Yes, it's actually also pouring here in North Town. It started quite early in the morning and it's pouring quite heavily. And that goes to add to our challenges. But we are continuing with our response efforts. This morning, we are having a meeting with all the stakeholders, the Member of Parliament, the Traditional Council, the Assembly, our disaster management committee members, that is the heads of all the agencies to look at some few issues and try to harmonize our efforts. Our responsibility placed on us by law is to try and coordinate all these efforts. And meetings like this will help us be able to harmonize how we go about dealing, because there's a lot of donations coming in, a lot of items coming in. Government has also provided a lot of items. The DRA is also supporting. We will try and harmonize the efforts so that we'll be able to reach everybody as we get along.
I'm going to ask you this. Do you feel we're in a state of emergency?
I didn't hear that, please.
Are we in a state of emergency on the back of what you've seen on the ground?
Well, we are responding to an emergency, and the emergency is unfolding and is continuous. You know, we have another challenge on our hand, that is that of the Akosombo Dam. Almost all the communities along the white water and the black water are flooded, and we are working on response efforts to a team is already there also coordinating that as well. But in the issue of declaration of state of emergency, that has to do with our ministry and the presidency as well. As we provide the information, I'm sure they are analyzing and looking.
So from where you sit, you don't think we've got to that point. I know that there's a group that has been set up, including many ministers of state and all of that. Some have said, well, since that is going on, maybe not. But declaring a state of emergency would add to the powers and the resources that will be made available. Have we not got there yet?
Well, I think that the interministerial committee, in doing their work, have the capacity and the information to take the right decisions as to how to properly deal with this situation. But on the ground, we are the technical people on the ground dealing with the issues. We supply the information and they give direction as to what to do. So I'm sure they are capable, they are analyzing the situation, and they will adopt the best approach in trying to help the people of this affected.
Let me reframe. If you were giving government advice, would you advise that a state of emergency be declared as of now, with what we are seeing on the ground, with the threat of a health crisis, with displacement, with the lack of the basic tools for these people to live? Have we not got to, if not crossed that point already? If you were giving counsel to government, what would you say?
Well, the little I know about the declaration of a state of emergency has not got to do with just the situation alone. It has also got to do with the capacity to deal with the situation. So that is why I said that the interministerial committee are assessing the capacities that are needed in dealing with it, with what to do. Because the declaration of a state of emergency will open up the situation to bring in capacity from anywhere in the world. But if the capacity exists in country, I know the ministerial committee will take the right decisions for us to apply down here and get things done with.
Mr. Sejisaji, please hold for me. Let me bring in Bernard Mornah. You've been on the ground again. I'll reference that. From what you've seen, do you believe we've got to that point where maybe a state of emergency is required? And you've also seen the work of NADMO. What is your take on their output so far in these affected areas, Bernard Mornah?
First, let me say good morning to Sejisaji. It's evident that NADMO is deeply in crisis, resource crisis. They don't have the logistics and other, particularly feeding and other health support for the people of the affected area. As I told you, the communities and what they require in order to survive, less than 2% is provided from government. And when we say government, that is me, NADMO, and its operatives. Certainly, NADMO has been under-resourced for a very long time, and this crisis has come to expose them even deeper. The second point that I want to establish is that I understand why Sergi will be finding it difficult to admit that we are beyond a state of emergency declaration. Look, if you go and see the conditions of our people in the Volta region, no one will tell you that a state of emergency is even long overdue. The people are in difficulties. People they cannot sleep in the night because where you have put them, they don't have mosquito nets. They are exposed to every dirty thing that you can be exposed to. People left their homes with nothing, right? One teacher went to school only to come back to realize that, look, everything is gone. So the only thing that teacher has is the motorbike he was riding and what he wore to school. In such circumstances, no one should come and tell you that you need to declare a state of emergency. In declaring a state of emergency, it also brings international focus and attention on you. That given the fact that NADMO in particular is under-resourced, then we can use that to launch for international appeal to support and to assist us to overcome the current difficulties that we are facing. Failing to do that means that we deliberately did this thing, spilled the water, and knew that the volumes will consume our people in the manner that it has done. And that is why government is failing to declare a state of emergency, because this is not a natural occurrence. This is an artificial occurrence. We determined to open. Now, DRA, NADMO, and others...
Are you suggesting, just clarify for me, are you suggesting that in order not to take blame or take the shots of blame, that is why government is not declaring a state of emergency, because then the blame would fall on it and its operatives? Is that what you're saying?
Look, that is an underestimation of what I'm saying. Whatever it is, government is fully responsible for the calamity that has befallen the people of the Volta region. It is government decision to spill. And government went around claiming that they did stakeholder engagement. You are asking people who have had their permanent residence to evacuate and to move. They should move to where? Have you made any alternative arrangement? Did you see that in the course of urging the people that they should move to safer lands, they took necessary steps to put up temporary camps to say, these are the places that you were supposed to go should in case this event occurred? Evidently, the government failed. Evidently, the government is responsible for the calamity that our people are facing today. Because if you tell me to move from my abode to a safer ground, I should go and live on a tree. Where should I go and find a place to reside? So you did nothing, no preparation whatsoever towards ensuring that I relocated to a safer ground. Now you are telling me that I should relocate. So the people should relocate to where? Even when the chiefs themselves have said that, look, now that we have been compelled to, in fact, we were swept away by the water, give us Segleme housing so that we can live there. Segleme housing is over 90% complete in some of the areas. Those places will even serve as 5-star hotels for the people, given the current conditions of their living. If you are failing to do that and you are failing to declare a state of emergency, one would think that government is deliberately punishing the people for no crime of theirs, particularly when the president said that they have not been voting for him. So I will conclude that for not voting for the MPP, this is your punishment. That is why we are not declaring a state of emergency, to attend to this difficult situation that the people find themselves in.
Let me cite for you, and we have, of course, Article 31 of the 1992 Constitution and the Emergency Powers Act. You would read through its stipulations in terms of the president acting in accordance with advice of the Council of State, and Parliament operating within 72 hours after being so notified to make a declaration, among other points. But when you get to point 9, it says, the circumstances under which a state of emergency may be declared under this article include a natural disaster and any situation in which any action is taken or is immediately threatened to be taken by any person or body of persons which, A, is calculated or likely to deprive the community of the essentials of life, or B, renders necessary the taking of measures which are required for securing the public safety, the defense of Ghana, and the maintenance of public order and of supplies and services essential to the life of the community.
Clearly and evidently, essential services have been curtailed. Water is not available to the people. Cemeteries have been washed. And as I was speaking to you about going to Mafi Devime, when we got there and we had to virtually swim on top of a house and its roof, the cemetery was virtually consumed. So the content we cannot be talking about. Hospitals have been submerged. Look, this situation tells the story that even the Constitution could not probably have predicted. And if you go to New Bako, they tell us that somewhere in 1963, they suffered similar calamity. That is why they moved from the original Bakpa, and now they are in a place called New Bakpa. And today, they have been inundated again. And they are asking the question, what has been their crime since 1963 to date?
Are you suggesting then that we are playing politics with a disaster of these proportions?
Well, if you say politics, it's an understatement. We are being partisan in this particular instance because politics is about the general well-being of our society. But in this instance, that partisanship has taken place where the president can utter that why you have not been voting for me, but I know one day you will vote for me. In crisis of this nature, the president is thinking about future votes and not thinking about ameliorating the debilitating conditions of our people. Then it has moved from being political and it has moved to the realm of being extremely partisan and using partisanship to afflict more harm and pain on the suffering people of the Volta region.
Engineer Mahama, I'll come to you, Mr. Saji, shortly. But Engineer Mahama, where do you sit as far as, that's why I took my time to look at some of the clauses, the parts of the law, Article 31 and what it says about a state of emergency. Where do you sit on that matter?
Well, I think it is only the policymakers who can declare the state of emergency. You and I may suggest that depending on what we are seeing in the affected areas, maybe a government would have to have a look at it. And, you know, like you rightly stated, the Council of Chiefs or whatever, elders may have to come in before this will be triggered. I am looking at what is happening there, and I just want our brothers to be a bit passionate when they are, and then be a bit candid when they are speaking to the issue. I'm not sure that the VRA would deliberately spill the dam. So Bernard should just tone down on that aspect. It's not an artificial or a man-made disaster as being alluded. We have a dam, and you are receiving water into the dam. A design has been made that at this peak, I can't contain any loading. It's like how buildings collapse with a certain application of load on them. When I get to this stage and I go beyond my ultimate design levels or load, I will buckle or I'll give way. So it is not like people have deliberately just.
But Engineer Mahama, just to, it's not a natural disaster, is it? This is not. This is different from the rains hitting, and yeah, you could say that the rains will also fill the dam and all of that. Go ahead.
No, you see,
Go
I'm
ahead
putting
then.
it in the context that they have no control over the extent of water coming. It is a thin line between describing it as a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. You have dammed a place, and I'm saying that I have a design that at the peak of my design, I will give way. So now, if I don't spill, let's say that maybe there was a probability, and I'm using the word that in all the meteorological service data that is given to VRA and other dam experts across the world, they give you the probable nature. Like I'm saying, last year, it was anticipated that was going to be a spillage. It didn't happen. And I'm saying, so the water that they are receiving, they don't have any control of the runoff which is coming all across the world.
Here's where I have a problem, Engineer Mahama. We are not the only country with hydro dams. As far as China and other countries have them, they have mechanisms in place, and in some instances, they also have to spill. Now, if they put mechanisms in place to ensure that these spillages don't result in what we are seeing, and we have not put saying, is it a natural disaster or a man-made disaster?
Across the world, we have had dams with all the aspects, and the dams have also collapsed. Example is just the one I'm just giving you in Libya, just about 11 September. That the experts in Libya are just like the experts in Ghana and maybe more than us. But they had a dam which has also collapsed because the anticipated water was predictive and was not predictive. There are probabilities. So I'm saying that it is worse that the dam would collapse. But the water that the dam is receiving is not it's not a man-made. It's not the fault of the designers at the place. So we have received water. We know that if you are receiving this pattern of water per day in this July, August, September, by this time, we have to start to spill. Mind you, there has been a constant spillage of some water every time. The dam has to breathe. When the turbines turn and they give us power, that water is the tailing that goes down. So there are already, but they are receiving quite a substantial volume of water overnight. And that water is within about some few days. That caused for the spillage. More already, they have done stimulation exercise by sensitizing the people. That is on records around May. But they did not anticipate the volume of water coming. So should I sit down and allow the dam to collapse completely? And at the same time, the thing I'm trying to prevent, I will take it off 100%, or I will go through this challenge, which is not, in fact, it's distasteful. Whatever we are going through now is unpleasant. I admit, I am not working at VRA, but I'm just looking at what I can't phantom to happen if the dam should collapse. And let's be candid. The water coming from Akosombo, from Bupe, Yape, the three tributaries to the Volta Lake is not man-made. What I'm just saying is that we can still do better by creating dams, irrigation dams, and improve on the Pualuku Dam. But when the water gets to the outfield, the spillage area, the land is fairly flat. You can't impound so much water. So if you tell me that BRO should have started risking to spill the water like in July or August, and then they wouldn't have had this, some few houses would have been affected anyway, but wouldn't have gotten to this magnitude. The second thing is that should they have spilled the water and then in anticipation did not receive the water at the end of the October, it means that the dam would have to go off, or the dam will operate minimum capacity, and then we're the same people. I have family people who are there in the Volta region. I have family people who are there, and everybody is paying a penny to support them. I'm never ever going to support whatever has happened, but it's a thin line between man-made and the natural disaster. So we should be emphatic. You shouldn't be emphatic with that statement.
It's a debate we can continue to have. But as we get ready to wrap the conversation, I'll come to all of you for solutions. Solutions from NADMO on the way forward, how we can better address this humanitarian or this human crisis that we are facing, this natural or man-made disaster, whichever way you guys decide to put it. But I'd like to find out from you, Engineer Mahama, before we move, what would be the consequence or the consequences if the Akosombo Dam was breached? We've spoken about one side. How about the other end? Briefly, but break down the technical bits. What would be the likely, occurrence if the dam is to be breached? What then happens?
We would have similar to what happened in Libya, or even more, depending on the congestion nature of the population in that area. It means that the dam would awash almost every building. In fact, the dam's strength, the design strength, cannot be matched to any building in Ghana. No building can stand the dam's design strength. So it means that if the dam even collapses, any other thing along the path is gone. Okay, and then when we are done, when the water finally recedes, like my other solution is that we may have to look at the structural integrity of especially the public event centers, the schools, churches and other centers, schools, universities and things, so that we'll be able to actually certify the suitability or the authenticity of the buildings standing the test of time after the aftermath of the rain, and then the road network as well. Other buildings within the area may have to also go through the same structural integrity analysis to be able to find out that the buildings are safe for cohabitation when we are done with the water receding finally at the end of the day. We are being told that for the past 3 days, there has not been any rise in the dam. So that's a good news. So we are.
It's raining now.
Yes. You see, what we have to understand is that when it is raining, the direct water that comes onto even the lake is not what even brings it to the spillage. That is like a macrocosm of what we are expecting. The water upstream gathers and collects a volume of water that comes, the tributaries that bring, but the catchment area directly on top may be quite insignificant to the volume of water that will be spilled. So whenever we have a problem, when I hear that Bupe, Yape, the northern part is actually having a lot of floods, then my worry is down here.
Okay,
but in that catchment area, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Just to paint a picture, so you're basically saying this is a disaster of mammoth proportions that we're looking at. But you're basically saying that if the dam were breached, it would be a sort of disaster like we've probably never seen in the history of our country. Is that what you're saying?
And I'm saying that it's a microcosm of what we will see if the dam should go away. Because it will take the whole of the communities, wipe them out of the history, including part of Tema. Including part of Tema. Because you are dealing with, I gave you a context that, can you imagine that the whole world, we are taking 2 sachet or sachet water of the same water for 40 years and above. That is I want people to understand the volume of water that is sitting at Akosombo Dam. And that is over 400 kilometers from traveling from Accra to Kumasi and back. Is the length of the lake. That's the volume. And that is almost 3.5% of the total land mass of Ghana. The water that is impounded in that location is 3.5% of the total land surface of Ghana. So we cannot be thinking of breaching the dam to that collapse end. We can never, ever rewrite what we are going to have in that side of the country. So I am empathizing with the people who are within those areas, but I'm looking at the bigger picture where we cannot. In the first place, the dam would collapse. You lose the dam. You lose the lives of the people there. No building will be able to stand the hydrostatic force of the dam, and then you lose energy or the power that is generated. It's like we said, let me give you that one thing. When the dam should collapse, economic viability into Burkina Faso, in Togo, Benin, and Nigeria would go, because no bridge, not the Akosombo Dam, the bridge or the Sugako bridge can stand that volume of water. Everything would be taken away. If that bridge, the dam should be, let me say, if half of the dam is filled now, that bridge there cannot take the pressure of the dam, and means that everything there will disconnect between Ghana, Togo, Burkina, Benin, and Nigeria. It means we are cut off.
You've also spoken about empty dams, but we're going to have to wrap the conversation. Let me come to Mr. Saji. For you, from where you sit, what is the way forward as far as NADMO is concerned? Resources and otherwise. What can be done to aid your work? Solutions? I think we just lost Mr. Saji. I'll wrap with you, Bernard Mornah. You've listened to different aspects, even the contention about whether we should call this a man-made disaster or a natural one. But what solutions are you proffering? What do you see to be the way forward? Can you hear me, Bernard Mornah?
An artificial disaster. But the actions of government and particularly in this crisis when government is failing to declare a state of emergency so as to marshal all support towards the people of the affected area, given the debilitating conditions of our people and the kind of, if you call, laissez-faire attitude that our government is putting towards our people. The conclusion one can make is that, look, and then you said you are going to do this. Like I said, if you...
Mr. Mornah, there's a bit of a concern with your connection. Okay, I think I can hear you now. Go ahead.
So it's evident and that is why we are having the levels of harsh conditions that our people are facing. But of course, I have said, that when you have a government that rubbishes Galamsey reports by Kwamkwate, when we all know that, look, the more you have what I call forested area, the ability you have in order to contain the ferociousness of water, right? Now, our water sources have all been cleared. The worst is that we have loosened the topsoil so much that even the water, you call it pitches, have been silted into such a level that now when water is coming, it flows on top instead of flowing below. Then to expect that we'll have this calamity that is befalling us because we are not taking proactive steps to ensure that we kept the Galamsey menace. We are not.
Well, we seem to have lost the connection once more to Bernard Mornah. He's a convener of Arise Ghana. This is where we'll draw the curtains on the conversation, but I feel we've addressed the major angles, and it would have been good to hear from Seji Saji as well. Well, those who joined us for this conversation, Seji Saji is Deputy Director General of NADMO in charge of technical. Bernard Mornah is convener, Arise Ghana, and engineer Abdullahi Mahama is a road and building consultant. Up next on the AM show, we're going to be talking about the economic transformation of Africa, the African Transformation Index. It's a tool for measuring progress of African countries on economic transformation. We'll be joined by our guest, Dr. Ed Brown, who is with ACET, the Africa Center on Energy Transformation, and he's going to be sharing with us their latest report and what it means for Ghana and other African countries. That conversation up next on the AM show. Well, thank you for staying with us. We're back on the AM show, and this time we focus on the economy, not just of Ghana, but of many other African countries and the trajectory that we appear to be on. The Africa Center on Economic Transformation has put together a report spanning some 20 years between 2000 and 2020. We're going to delve into the elements in there, find out where we stand as a country, Ghana and beyond, and their focal areas and what it means for the economic transformation of the continent. Joining us for that conversation, we have Dr. Ed Brown, or Edward K. Brown. We all call him Ed Brown, Senior Director, Research and Policy Engagements with the Africa Center for Economic Transformation. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
It's so good to have you join the conversation. Even before we get into your report and everything it brings to bear, I would ask you this straightforward question. When you look at African economies today, yes, on the back of COVID, on the back of the Russo-Ukrainian war and everything, what is the picture you see?
Well, I think it's very important to recognize the fact that the COVID, the Russian-Ukrainian wars have had some significant effects on the economy. But beyond that, if you look back 2 decades, you see that African economies have been struggling. So the narrative of Africa rising, which was, more or less been trumpeted in the early 2000s, was clearly a manifestation of growth. In other words, the economies are growing, but they were not creating jobs. And then when you have the financial crisis, as well as the COVID, and then the commodity super cycle that came in 2015, all these things had effect on the economies because the economies were not resilient enough to absorb these external shocks and recover quickly. So the picture that we continue to paint over the last 2 decades is that African economies are transforming slowly. They're transforming slowly. And in fact, what is even a little bit more disconcerting is that when you look at the year 2000 and you compare it to the early transformers, that gap between African economies and the early transformers, and I mentioned countries like North Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brazil, and so on, we see that gap over the last 20 years has even widened further. So even though the economies are transforming slowly, they are not catching up with the other economies. So that is the picture we have today, unfortunately. But that is not to say that there are no, successes. In fact, several countries have made good progress. And I can mention countries like Mauritius, Tunisia, Morocco, South Africa, that have really been transforming their economies over the last 2 decades, 2 to 3 decades. So the picture, while it sounds a little bit disconcerting, there are, areas of progress that we can learn from.
Right, and you highlight, of course, in the report some of these areas that we'll be getting into. But again, narrowing it down to Ghana, for example, because most of us are more concerned about where we are. On the back of our debt restructuring and everything else that we've seen, the initial haircut and now the second batch of it, looking at our external creditors and all of that. What is our peculiar situation in all of this?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a peculiar situation, because the debt issue, is a much more broader issue going beyond Ghana itself, in terms of what has happened since COVID, and the Ukrainian war. So the liquidity crisis was further precipitated by those shocks. Okay, and therefore for Ghana, what has been the main challenge is that you have an increasing proportion of the public debt being, the debt being domestic debts. Okay, so you have the external debts, but the domestic debts, and if you start restructuring the domestic debt, you're also creating a certain lack of confidence in the financial sector.
Right.
So there's always that challenge that you need to look at when you're looking at the debt situation in the country. But beyond the immediate liquidity crisis that we face is the issue of solvency. And the solvency is related to whether or not the economy is capable of financing its debt on a long-term, medium to long-term basis.
The health of the economy.
The health of the economy. That's what it is. Yeah.
Let's now come to the ATI itself, the African Transformation Index.
Yes.
You target 30 out of 54 countries, so not all African countries are in there. Why that? And maybe to kick start on that, what is the ATI all about?
Okay, the ATI is basically an indicator that traces the transformation trajectory of African economies over a period of time. So it does not only trace that, but it also compares it with other, early transformers. So that at least for each of these countries, you can begin to assess what it is. Now, it provides an analytical framework for, leaders, policymakers, but even you as a journalist, to be able to assess how the economies are performing. Even the ordinary man on the street, the civil society and others, can easily, because it's easily digestible, it's in a form that is intuitively, satisfying, and therefore you can use that to gauge what the economies are doing. And let me just make one simple, description of what the ATI is. So we're saying that growth with depth, and the reason why we're saying growth with depth is that we've realized that growth alone, while necessary, is not sufficient. And we've seen jobless growth over the years. And therefore, you need to look at some of the levers of transformation. What are the key areas that you need to focus on in order to transform your economy? And here we're talking about depth. The depth is just an acronym for diversification. You need to diversify your economy.
Right.
In other words, you can't pack your eggs in one basket.
Which we've done for a long time.
Absolutely.
Natural resources and some
commodities,
few cash crops. And
gold, cocoa, woodworks and so on. In Ghana, what is called 70% of all our exports are in commodities. In 2000, in 2020, almost 90% of all our exports are still in those commodities. We haven't been able to diversify away from the primary production, and that is a key problem.
It makes for interesting reading, because if you look at manuscripts, blueprints, other documents from the Nkrumah era, there were plans. In fact, even before independence, if you look at the Gaggisberg, plans and all of that, there was supposed to be a major shift from even cocoa alone being a cash crop and all of that. But some 60 years on, we've still not been able to catch up on that idea.
Absolutely. I think the income substitution strategies of Nkrumah was meant to transform the economy. Unfortunately, the focus was on the public sector. So there was the public sector that was driving it. And with the public sector, the economic and commercial fundamentals are not clear. So it has to be driven by the private sector with the government supporting it. So I think that's part of the problem. And over the last 40 years, we've dismantled all those very important income substitution industries, and we haven't been able to replace them or support SMEs to grow to replace them. So we haven't been able to do that. And this is not only in Ghana; it's also in many other countries. And in fact, you cannot ascribe this to any of the regimes. It's a combination over several decades, beyond even the 20 years we're looking at. So the problem goes beyond that, but it also requires that the state must be entrepreneurial, must be strategic, must be constantly focusing on what are the key drivers of economic development in the country and how you can support the private sector in doing that. All the countries that have been able to transform, even the developed countries, the US and so on, the public sector was the foundation for many of the progresses. Even what Elon Musk is doing, and Google and also Microsoft, these were all developed by the Defense Research Agency of the federal government.
Right.
On the back of that, these companies were able to develop.
So providing the mechanisms for entrepreneurs to build economies, and then they create jobs and everything else falls in place. It's something that administration in and out has touted, but we've not been able to wrap our minds around technically. But is there any reason you targeted 30 out of 54 countries?
Yes, 30 are the ones with good data.
Okay.
Because we need to be able to assess over time good comparative data. So we're looking at credible sources of data. But these 30 are 89% of the GDP of Africa.
I see.
Okay. So, and about 90% of the population. So these 30 countries are a good reflection of the countries we're talking about. But beyond that, we continue to, over time, we will continue to bring in more countries as data becomes available.
You assess these countries on 5 key components or dimensions, and the coverage, a score of 0 to 100, where 100, of course, would be considered highly transformed, and 0 meaning very poorly transformed. You look at metrics like diversification, and there's a meaning to that, export competitiveness, productivity increases, technological upgrading, and human well-being.
Yes.
How did you encapsulate all of this in conducting this survey?
Yeah, the way, the first report came out in 2014, and we spent 3 years looking at what have been the characteristics of economies that are transforming. So we looked at countries like Korea, Vietnam, Singapore, Thailand, Brazil, Chile, and so on, to see what are the key common characteristics that makes them a transformed economy. And what we found was that all these economies were able to diversify, first away from primary products, but into new export frontiers. So the level of sophistication of their production and exports increased. Then we also found that they were also very much export-oriented. But you see, today, you may not want to argue seriously about export orientation, but export orientation offers you the opportunity to peg your economies against the best in the world, because you are competing with them. The SMEs in Ghana should be able to compete with other SMEs in other countries that are equally competitive. So the export competitiveness is not just providing you with exports per se, but also helping you to improve on the quality and the technological upgrading and sophistication of your economy. And it also, of course, provides the exchange. The current account situation will be much more improved, and you can also then be able to import things that you don't produce. So export is very important. But even more important is productivity. If we are clamoring for increasing wages, if productivity is not rising, when you increase wages, it's going to be inflationary. So it's very important that you focus on productivity. And to do that, you need to begin to focus more on skills, education and skills, particularly in the TVET area, which is the rising or the growing green areas for the economies, which countries should be able to deal with. And then, of course, technology, as we all know, has been the driver of all the industrial revolutions, from the first, second to third, and now we have the fourth industrial revolution. So if you are not applying technology, and here the state has a role to play in supporting the small and medium-sized enterprises, in adapting new technologies to become competitive. But of course, the H is the human well-being. It's the composite. We go beyond just measuring poverty. We're measuring poverty through income, GDP, but also looking at inequality. We're also looking at the extent to which the society is integrating female into the labor force. So formal labor force employment of female constitutes a very important element, because without that, we cannot really increase human well-being. And we all know that female employment adds a lot to GDP.
True.
So if we don't do that and focus, but this requires targeted, deliberate, intentional effort to do that.
And when you look at the report, I'll be going to the key highlights or the standout points from the report. I mean, I saw in part of it the movers and shakers when it comes to the African continent, the likes of Morocco and Tunisia and how they are faring, the likes of Gambia, the likes of Niger and Zimbabwe, tapering off, things getting worse, Rwanda and all of that. But what would be the key highlights, the salient points to be deduced from this report? Okay.
I would say there are there are so many points, but I would just mention 3 salient points. And let me start with the good news. The good news is that...
give us the good before the bad.
Yes. The good news is that human well-being has been improving steadily over the years, over the last 20 years. And we see that today, people have a higher standard of living than they were in 2000. The data shows it. The measure that we're talking about, income inequality, per capita income, and then female employment, all together gives us the measure of human well-being. And we see that human well-being is improving over time. But it is vulnerable and fragile. Without the other dimensions of depth, we are not going to get anywhere. Because over time, if those dimensions continue to deteriorate, then human well-being also would become stagnant and later on begin to drop.
And you were talking earlier about COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukrainian war. They are clear examples. The least shocks put African economies, most African economies, in a swirl. And we've seen it in Ghana.
Absolutely. And it's all because we're not diversifying away from primary production. So when there are external shocks and commodity price bust, then it immediately has a ripple effect on the economy. Your earnings reduce significantly. Then you are not able to build the reserves you need to build fiscal resilience. The fiscal resilience means that you have enough buffer in terms of resources, foreign exchange, to be able to buy the kinds of products you don't produce. Now, if you don't have that, first of all, it's going to be inflationary because there'll be pressure on the cedi, and then exchange rates will depreciate. So that is very key.
Which are the countries making inroads?
Okay.
You've looked at a 20-year period.
Yes.
Which are the countries that have made the highest jumps, the most inroads in these economic, indices that you use, and which are the ones that are lagging behind? After which I would want us to specifically focus on Ghana.
Okay. Yeah, there are the countries that have been performing well over the years, like Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, South Africa. Then there are countries that have been doing well, that have done well, even though they started at a low level, like Rwanda, which is doing very well on the transformation indicators. So, and then Eswatini.
Right.
Eswatini is a small country, but it managed to capitalize.
That used to be, is it Swaziland?
Swaziland.
Right.
It capitalized on the AGOA to develop manufacturing extensively. And the problem we're facing in many African countries, as the structural transformation literature suggests, is that we are deindustrializing. Deindustrializing. In other words, manufacturing is shrinking. But in manufacturing is one of the sectors that can help to drive productivity. And we're not putting enough support, intentional support into manufacturing.
I like what you add, intentional.
Intentional. It has to be.
Not haphazard.
Yes. Intentional support to have, to make manufacturing more sustainable, competitive, and investment ready. So if you look at so the countries, just back to your question, the countries that are not doing too well, countries like Niger, Gambia, and a few other countries in the Sahel, the Sahelian countries are not doing too well. And
now with everything happening in Niger, that makes everything,
absolutely,
the economy and management of some of these things rather murky. On the standpoint of the fact that the rest of the world may not acknowledge their leadership in the first place, dealing with the rest of the world on the economic front. I know some support to Niger has been, taken away, which means that the situation could get worse. But on the other hand, they have uranium and everything that over the years have not really served them with all the governance, that the governments they have had.
Absolutely, because you see, part of the challenge, and it's an ongoing conversation in the international community, is the extent to which the CFA is either promoting or undermining, the economies of the Francophone countries, 14 of them, which are the countries that really are under the CFA program. Now, I think part of it requires some sort of international, recognition that there is a need to realign these economies to the other economies in the sub-region. That's one. The second thing you talked about, uranium, but also many of these, like for example, Niger has at least the largest herd of cattle and sheep and goats in the Sahel, in West Africa.
Some of them even end up here.
Yes. And, the whole derivative of leather and leather industries and so on could be developed. But you need to think regional and act local. You need to look at what are the regional opportunities that you need to bring together to ensure that these countries that are landlocked countries can begin to benefit from collaboration with the other countries and raise their income levels and transformation agenda.
I'm looking at the African average for technological upgrading, for example, and it's quite a concern looking at the 29.7 that I'm looking at. But you see the countries at the bottom of the index, Zimbabwe, Zambia, of course, they've had their own challenges, the Gambias and others. And then, like you mentioned, the Algerias, Botswana. Doing pretty well. Their economic transformation has been pretty interesting, what they've done there. There's also Cameroon in the picture. But when you come to Ghana, what picture is painted? What lessons can we learn from the ATI?
Okay. I think Ghana, there are 3 areas where there needs to be intentional support. In the whole area of diversification, we need to begin to look at how we can diversify away from the primary products. And analysis have been made about the non-traditional exports. But government needs to provide intentional guidance and support to make this happen, to steer the private sector into those areas through some kind of fiscal framework that will allow the companies who are moving into these areas, even also in terms of climate, the kinds of industries that can emerge in climate. You're talking about textile and recycling of garments and so on. You're talking about waste, electronic waste, and plastics. These are all sectors that would require a lot of support going forward because the technologies are now growing. The government should play an active role in understanding what are the emerging technologies and how they can help support companies to be able to access this financing to do this kind of work. It's very, very, very important in that area. So that's the second element is productivity. In Ghana, the productivity levels is declining. And productivity is driven by 2 main factors. That is skills, education, of course, and technology. And we see that the level of technical and vocational education is very low, and the quality is poor. Of course, the government is doing a lot in that area. It takes time, but there has to be much more aggressive effort to crowd in the youth into those sectors and to support them, to have the skills required for the changing nature of jobs, the digitalization, innovations, and so on that are emerging. We need people who are capable of creating even new technologies which are more labor intensive. Right. Because the technologies that we observe, the Western technologies, are very much labor substitution. Okay. And are there any opportunities to create new technologies that could be labor intensive? Given the rapidly growing population in Africa, yes, about 45% of the world's the youth population in the world by 2050 would be in Africa. But what is the quality of the education? To what extent can we begin?
How ready are they for the labor market?
Absolutely.
Those are the questions.
That's the question.
But my final bit to you, with this ATI, this African Transformation Index, how can it shape policy? our national planning on the continent, maybe specifically in Ghana, and a more resilient economy overall. Let's focus on Ghana for that.
Yes, for Ghana. Actually, what we're doing, beyond having this composite for the whole of Africa, the 30 countries, we are doing what we call country economic transformation outlooks, which is bringing together key stakeholders, including government, to really look at what are the areas that you need to focus on to diversify your economy. So we've done what's called the product space analysis, which looks at the various types of commodities or products that Ghana, given its endowment, can easily, become more competitive, even though it has a comparative advantage.
Right.
But it becomes more competitive. So it's extremely important that we begin to look at the development agenda from that transformation lens. So what we're trying to do is to bring stakeholders together to appreciate the importance of using these dimensions, these indicators. Once we focus on those indicators, the point about the indicators is that they are not just policy, they are actual on the ground. If your economy is diversifying, you know it's diversifying, right? Because the data shows that it's diversifying, and we have a way to calculate that. If your economy is export competitive, we know. So you can more or less field transformation because the data is there. It's not, we've built 10,000 kilometers of road, or we build X number of schools and so on. No, those are inputs. Okay, but the real outcome, the results,
right?
These 5 dimensions are critical if you focus on them. In other words, if the president says to his lieutenant and say, listen, I don't want any other thing, I want my economy to be diversified. So you, Minister of Industry and Trade, Minister of Finance, Minister of Agri, come together. What do you do? How do we get it done? Export competitiveness, the Export Promotion Agency and all that. Bring them together,
right,
and give them targets about what they need to do. If you focus on that, you would be able, then you wouldn't be, in fact, the issues of malfeasance, corruption, and so on would be reduced because you're not looking at the number of ambulances you're buying, you're looking at the number of, the maternal mortality that is reducing,
right?
And all those things that relate to
and that's the good thing about data. They say the devil is in the detail, and I would say the devil of our economic maltransformation is in the data that we do not apply. But we're grateful, Doc, that you've taken the time to join us this morning. And moving forward, we would like to see how all of this shapes policy and our national economic life in terms of development. Joining us for this conversation, Dr. Edward K. Brown. He is Senior Director, Research and Policy Engagements with the African Center for Economic Transformation. He joined us for a conversation this morning. Do stay with us. There's a lot more coming your way on the AM show after the break.
A very good morning to you. I hope you're doing well wherever you're watching us from. This is the AM show, and I'm Bernice Abubedulansa. I'm so happy to come to you today to bring you the very important conversation about insurance. No, don't tune out yet. No. This is a conversation you want to listen to. I know a lot of us shy away when we hear insurance and we see insurance marketers and they are running away. But it is very, very important. And this morning, I am pleased to be joined by Michael Kofi Ando. He's the Acting Commissioner of Insurance at the National Insurance Commission. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
I just had to ask our viewers to hold on because usually when people hear insurance, they run away. Can't take our money again. No. We want to keep what we have. Why do we have to? Already we are burdened with taxes and all that. Why do you still want to take from us? Why is insurance important?
Insurance gives so much. Well, insurance is important because there's risk attached to everything that we do. In coming here, anything could have happened. If you are running a business, a lot of things can happen to it. If you are a farmer, a lot of things can happen to your farm. There's risk in everything that we do, and that is exactly where insurance comes in. Insurance comes in to make good the losses that we suffer due to all the risks that are associated with it.
I'm going to ask you a very controversial question, right? So, I know someone who's been insuring his vehicle since he probably started. He's 60 plus now, and he's never had reason to use insurance. Should I be calculating the percentage of my risk to consider if I should go for insurance or not? Because you're talking about taking risks, right? So I'm sitting here, probably I have a house, but I'm thinking that there's no risk to this building. Why should I pay so much for insurance that I may never end up using anyway?
Well, I doubt whether the risk is zero in any case. I don't think there's a zero risk in any situation. But when they are pricing insurance, they take into consideration the level of the risk as well. So insuring your house situated at a very good location, the premium may be much, much lower than, say, insuring a commercial vehicle because it runs on the road every day, and so the risk is high. So when they actually pricing insurance, they consider the level of risk involved. But I can't say that the risk will be zero at any point or any.
And that's where the National Insurance Commission comes in, right? You're monitoring insurance companies to ensure that they're not ripping us off.
Correct.
And all these calculations they're doing are really according to the risk.
Sound to keep them in business and fair to the consumer.
Fantastic. Now, there's an international conference coming up on the 23rd of October.
Today.
Starts today.
Yes.
And it's about inclusive insurance.
Correct.
What is inclusive insurance?
So inclusive insurance is insurance that is available to all the people who appear to be excluded from the insurance market by conventional or traditional insurance. You know, we inherited insurance from our colonial masters, and the insurance that they left with us seemed to work best for people who work in the formal sector. These people earn monthly salaries. They operate a bank account. At the end of the month, their salaries go into their bank account. The insurance company goes to make their deduction from there. But you and I know that the majority of our people don't work in the formal sector. They are carpenters, they are masons, they are fisherfolk, they are farmers, they are petty traders. They don't earn monthly salaries, and some of them don't have bank accounts. But it doesn't mean they don't run risks.
Right.
They have risks. But you see, because of where they work and what they do and how they run their financial system, they seem to be excluded from the formal insurance market. That is why this is called inclusive insurance. So we want to include those who have been excluded by all the barriers that I have talked about. So this is mainly insurance targeted at the informal sector, so we can cover everybody.
That's a very interesting perspective to all of this. And I remember engaging one insurance company that says that is looking in that aspect of how it can reach. So what is the conference going to look like? I want to believe that you're going to have insurance companies in attendance. You're going to have representatives on the inform. Just tell us how the conference will look like and what the conclusion you hope will be for it.
Great. It's a global conference.
Okay.
So people are coming from all over the world, and many people with diverse backgrounds. So there are insurance companies, there are insurance brokers, there are researchers, there are people from academia, people from research, people, development partners, people from different diverse backgrounds are coming there. And they are mainly coming to discuss issues with building resilience, helping to bridge the protection gap. So the protection gap is this. As I said, we all do run risks and we do suffer losses at some point in time. But how much of these losses are insured and qualify for compensation when they occur? So the difference between the insured losses and uninsured losses are what we call the insurance gap.
Right.
So we are trying to bridge it. So mainly the sessions will be to share ideas, to present findings of research they have done, to present best practices, to talk about how it is done in other areas that have worked, and people will learn. Some people may find the solutions to the challenges they are going through just there. There are a lot of experts that are coming to talk about issues. People you would have paid a lot of money to see or hear are there for free for you to talk to and probably approach after a session. You may find just the person you need to help you solve a problem that you have. So it's going to be a knowledge sharing conference. A lot will be shared on inclusive insurance specifically, and we are looking forward to having some tremendous benefit on our inclusive insurance market here in Ghana.
And who are you looking forward to being there? Are we all invited? How do we participate?
Yes, media men, journalists, insurance people, researchers, people from academia. Like I said, everybody is invited.
We'll come back to the conference later, but there's a general apathy when it comes to insurance, even for the formal sector. You're talking about reaching the informal sector, but even in the formal sector, there's such slow growth. You're reported to have said that about 44.6% of the working populace has one form of insurance or the other. Well, that was, at least we've upgraded a little from 29% in 2015, but the growth rate is not as expected, especially with the kind of middle income status that we have as a country, and you would expect that as people climb up the ladder, some of these things will naturally rise as well. But what's accounting for this slow growth?
That is true. 44% of the workforce, this includes both the formal and the informal sector. Right. But then if you look at it from the perspective of where we have come from, it doesn't sound, we should have done much better than that. But if you look at where we have come from, this around 2010 was just about 5%. Okay, around 2015-16 was 29%, and now it's about 44%. We have made a lot of progress. We have a lot more progress to make, but you see, we have come a long way, and we have made a lot of progress thanks to the inclusiveness of the market. Right. And so, yes, it requires education. It requires building capacity on both the demand and the supply side. So the people in the informal sector, or people who don't buy insurance, not because they don't need insurance, right, but it probably is because they don't have the kind of insurance that is suitable for them, and they don't understand how it works. And we may not have insurance available for them because the insurance companies probably haven't designed products that are suitable to that segment. Right. So that's why I say it needs capacity building on both sides. Building the capacity of the insurance industry to design something that fits the people in the informal sector, and educating the informal sector that, look, you run a risk, whatever it is you are doing, whether you are a petty trader, fisherman, whatever, you run some risk. And there is some kind of insurance that can help to protect you from this. So then you create the market, because the economists say that the market is where demand and supply meet. So when the people on the demand side know that there's something that helps them, and the people on the supply side makes that available, then you create the market. So that's exactly what we are working on, and that just dovetails into the purpose of this conference.
Right. And I know the banking sector crisis, right, doesn't specifically deal with your part of the whole market, because you are strictly insurance. Yes. But don't you think that the whole mistrust of the financial space, so you had things like DKM, there's a men's gold saga, people just want to hold on to their own monies. There seems to be some level of mistrust. I know there are issues with insurance companies paying claims as early as they promise and all that. But what do you think about the impact of the general financial space, even on the insurance sector?
Well, yes, it may have some impact to some extent, but we are doing so much to address that. We are doing so much to allay the fears of the general public and people who do insurance. We have opened up in the traditional 10 regions before the 6 additional ones were created, and we have offices in all of them, and we are trying to reach out to the masses and explain to them how insurance works and the structure of the insurance market, and the fact that there is a regulator who has been created and given power to protect you as a consumer. And therefore, even if your insurance company gives you a treatment that you are not happy with, you can go there and make a complaint, and it will be looked into, and whatever there is will be rectified for you.
Do you have any challenges in that aspect when it comes to ensuring that the customer gets the right form of treatment or gets what they were promised by the insurance company? Do you have any challenges?
We don't have any. Once the challenge, the the complaint gets to us, we get to deal with it, and we get the whatever is due to the customer to be given the customer. The challenge more comes in people becoming aware that there is an avenue for redress. There's a place where I can go and make my complaint and get someone to address it and give me what I deserve. I think that is more where the issue is. But once the complaints come in, we do resolve that. And it is not hard. You can walk into any of our offices across the country, or you can just send an email to info@nicgh.org. That's an email, and it's dedicated to receiving complaints. So once you go there, once you click there, you will see that the format has been designed for you to put in a complaint, because they will ask you what your complaint is about, your name, your phone number, and then tell your story. Once you click send, someone will get in touch with you, and we get to deal with your issue, whatever it's
all right,
about.
so it's info@nicgh.org. So that's the website. If you're someone who has trouble with, getting your claims back from an insurance company, or there's an insurance company that has approached you and you may just want to verify if they are a legitimate one, you can reach out to the NIC.
Oh, and we have the list of all the licensed insurance companies on our website.
Great.
So that's www.nicgh.org. That's our website. What I gave you earlier on was an email for complaint.
Right.
But in our website, we have the list of all licensed insurance entities, insurance companies, broking firms that are licensed. So if you just want to verify whether the person, the company you are dealing with is licensed, you can go there and verify it.
Fantastic. So I know that you try to come up with innovative policies, to try and also deal with the issue of mistrust. Are there any few you want to share with us?
Yes, so we came out with the motor insurance database because motor is our biggest line of business, and it is where most of our complaints come from. And so we try to design that to enable people to be protected, to have the assurance you can confirm the insurance status of any vehicle that is on the road. It also helps the law enforcement people to be able to check that the vehicles on our roads are insured. That generally goes to ensure safety on our roads and for everybody.
So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to insurance, and I'm sure a lot of it will be dealt with at the program. So you tell us where this conference is happening, how we can participate, can we follow online? Just kindly share the details.
Okay, so the conference is taking place at Movenpick Hotel. It starts from today and it's going to end on Thursday. Today is the pre-conference, so there are going to be a number of workshops. Tomorrow will be the opening ceremony. Between 9 and 12:30 will be the official opening ceremony, and then after that, all the sessions. If you want to attend, you have to go to the conference website and just register. It is www.minicrefoundation.org. Okay, so this conference is a global one. It is sponsored or organized by the Munich Re Foundation and co-hosted in Ghana by the National Insurance Commission, the Ghana Insurers Association, and the Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana. We are co-hosting it in Ghana. So if you go to the Munich Re Foundation website, you'll find the registration platform, the registration link, and you can just follow.
And Munich Re is MUNICH?
That's right.
RE.
That's right.
Foundation.org. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. And hopefully after the program, we can have another conversation about what the outcomes and solutions and recommendations were. I appreciate your company this morning.
That would be nice.
Michael Kofi-Addo is Acting Commissioner of Insurance at the National Insurance Commission, and we've just been talking about that international conference on inclusive insurance, which is starting today. So if you're someone who's interested in the insurance space, you just want to get onto www.munichrefoundation.org and register for that program. When I come back on the AM show, we'll be talking about some fraud that is happening on the internet, which has become of grave concern to many of you, and it has to do with images of myself and my colleagues here being used to sell certain medicinal products. I'll be back to show you how you can easily identify those ones that are not right, that is fake news, not only from our outfit, but generally how you can stay safe on the internet. Do stay. Hi there, thank you so much for staying on the AM show. And Benjamin Akakpo has joined me because we need to do this together, don't we? And
we
there are
do.
some mischievous people. I'm not sure mischievous is it.
It's too soft a word. They are criminals.
Soft, yes. Who are using our images and that of our colleagues to sell some medicinal products online and actually using the company's logo as well.
Yeah.
So what they do is that they take, for example, Benjamin, you're doing the news this morning. They take a snippet of that. They use some form of artificial intelligence technology. Deepfake. And then
So they clone your voice. Make it sound like
you're advertising.
After a while of reading.
Right.
These are people who are very... They are very intentional about what they're doing. So they can monitor you for maybe weeks or a month, then put your voice together, create like a replica of your voice, and then they use it for these activities. The first time, it had to do with some financial scheme or whatever. Now, it has to do with medicinal products. And Bernice, I tell you, I'm getting calls every day on this. Just yesterday, a classmate from secondary school reached out. I had to immediately caution him, no, don't even try it. And that's how bad this is really getting. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it is. And you're not the only one. A lot of us have received phone calls, people trying to verify if the information is accurate. Someone actually gave me a call and said that he had ordered 2 of the drugs, supposedly one to cure diabetes. And the people said they were going to add an additional pack to it. And so I think he just had a bit of a nudge and decided to call in and say, oh, look, you know. So this morning, we've been joined by Maximus Ametoko. He's a data analyst and an IC consultant. It's important that we have these conversations because once again, we've reported to Facebook, but these commercials, some of which are sponsored, i.e. they are paid for, are still on social media. So Maximus joins us to help you understand how you can easily spot such commercials which are not accurate or true. Good morning to you, Maximus, and it's a pleasure to have you here. We are struggling to deal with this. We have people calling us, people actually purchasing these medications, some of them taking them at the detriment of their own health. How do we deal with this? First off, individually, how do we identify easily some of these commercials that are becoming the norm?
For me, the first thing, anyway, good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Good morning.
Right, it's surprising that people will fall for that. It of course, it tells 2 things. You have a strong brand. That's why they are trying to imitate your brand, because media. Sometimes you have huge trust value that people want to ride on. That's why they place adverts in between your programs. That's why they do live presenter mentions, because they want to rent the ears of your audience, right? Or the eyeballs of your audience so that they can sell something to them. Now it's the advancement of technology. Of course, your voices, because you have a bank of information online, and people have your videos also online. What they've done is they've synthesized, your voice using an avatar, like what do you call it, an AI, to create a similar avatar as yours, and then they can run any script, on it for you to say whatever they intend to sell to people, so that people who can't detect, deepfakes, can really say, oh, okay, this is Aisha selling something, or this is somebody Kojo selling a product to us, so it should be trustworthy. So that is the whole idea. And the fact is that we need to have online gatekeepers, and it requires policy. I know they are doing some AI policy and they are working on other, related documentations. But for Ghana, we need online gatekeeper like the cybersecurity unit that they currently have, where some of these things can be reported. Now, for multimedia, I think you should have an extension on your domain where all the fake news about you can be populated, right? So you can go and upload anything. It means you need to have a monitoring system wherever you are mentioned. You see whether you are the ones telling people about yourself or somebody is just mentioning your name to dupe other people. So that is very important. When I saw the video, I was not surprised, but the issue is that some people may not pay attention to the facial expressions that the video they are using or the video they are viewing to see whether even the mouth, the way Aisha mentions a word and how the words are constructed in the syntax of what they are saying. You can see that the AI is trying to, imitate how you speak, but it wasn't properly done. So if you watch the of the character in the video, you can tell that it was just miming along. It wasn't natural. So that's one. And then they copied your design too as well to put your logo in the corner there. Now there are apps that are doing that where you can even simulate a WhatsApp chat. Just creating a sender and a receiver account, and you can simulate all the chats. I'm sure you've seen some of the screenshots that people have been posting. So for us to do that, first of all, the Joy News or the multimedia brand for what they publish. They don't publish health-related content the way you saw it in the video. So that should be a red flag and say, hey, they don't sell this kind of product. And of course, there's no traceability or reference point or source to their platforms, any of their platforms where you can watch that particular video. It's on third-party platform. And if you put a logo of a media house on top of a video, it means that the video should be available on their channels, their online channels. So if it's not there or somebody is using this as an endorsement for their advertising, you should report that video or send it to multimedia to say, hey, are you the one behind this? Or Aisha, did you do this particular video or not? And for me, the audience also have a critical role to play. If my video is selling you something that I don't sell or something that you are not familiar with, the best thing is to also report that video or cross-check. Because if somebody is selling you medication or medicines which can be detrimental to your health, you don't just go and buy because you saw a video or a face or a picture that is familiar that you've seen on the various media channels, and then you just go and buy. You don't do that. You have to cross-check, you have to reference. And there's a procedure. Some drugs are over the counter, some drugs you need doctors to prescribe it to you. And I'm quite surprised people fell for that.
Maximus, there's another thing about Facebook itself. I appreciate that you talk about having online gatekeepers locally and all that. That's a question for the Cybersecurity Authority to also answer, because we know that there is a whole department responsible for that at the Ghana Police Service. But why is it so difficult to get some of these companies that run these social media platforms to get some of these content off their sites, especially when they are paid for?
Yeah, sometimes because of the volume of content that is published on their platform, they've relegated some of these, cross-checking to, apps or AIs to be able to do that. So when you click to boost a post, they'll start, running the ad before they can cross-check that. So that is the difficulty that they have as a platform, because Facebook has over 2 billion people, and the volume of content that those people post every day, over 5 billion posts in a day, right? So trying to cross-check those things, for me, is not an excuse, right? Joy News can sue Facebook for that, for allowing their platform to be used to promote, to impersonate your brand and also promote, a product that you don't sell. You should sue them, you get their attention, and I'm sure they'll put, structures in place so that they can deal with some of these, key brands. You can't do that in a lot of jurisdictions. By now, they should receive a call and then they are being summoned. For me, I think the platforms have that gatekeeping role in the first place before their users, before the people who are building communities on their platforms. And they even have some partner, fake news verifying, partners in Africa. I think there's one in Ghana. Is it Dabawa or something? For them, I think you also need to partner with those people so that some of these things, when you report it immediately, they can even deactivate accounts, or they can even report it quickly for the issue to be resolved.
Maximus, Benjamin here. I think with these social media entities, maybe we should take them on like we've seen the United States take on Facebook for some reasons, and other entities as well. A short while ago, well, over a month or two ago, my Instagram account was hacked. I don't know what these people were posting. By the time I could say, Jack, my account had been taken down and all of that. I've not been able to recover my account. Put that side by side with Facebook. Yes, this may be paid content, but whether it's looking for a needle in a haystack or whether it is how many posts in a day, these are commercial. And you should be able to target these commercials because you have them on your list. Or is it that these entities, because they are getting fed from these payments, are a bit lethargic with dealing with them? And how do entities like Joy News deal with them?
Yeah, so for me, I think that the lack of policy, direction, or should I say policy direction, the fact that Ghana hasn't, been very strong in terms of policing content on the various social media platforms. So some of these things will be automated. When you're going to run a social or political ad, they even verify you first before you can even do that. So under the advert, you see paid for by maybe Ben or Aisha or Maximus is there, right? So for Africa, as a country, if we don't push that, some of these things are going to happen. And if we are going to say that, hey, Meta, if you run an ad, against a brand in Ghana, a media house, a politician, or whatever, you'll be sued this amount, and they know how much they are going to pay. They will make sure they run, algorithms on their platform to make sure any ad or post that is made is verified before it's exposed to a lot more people. Because what the people want to do is that they boost so they can reach more people immediately. And the effect is, is more wider than just posting the normal content. And for me, I think you should be able to, we can work around it, get to Meta so that these issues can also be resolved. I know they are working with GRA to collect VAT for the GRA and all that. So it's not a difficult thing to do.
In other words, you're saying that it's our lack of policy direction or action that has led to this. And moving forward with AI developing very fast, with deepfake developing very fast, if as a nation we don't do something, this could be a complete mess.
Yeah, it's going to be a complete mess. Trust me, you see people viewing the three of us talking together, and it's possibly in the next 2-3 years can be an AI talking. My avatar, your avatar, Aisha's avatar talking on your branded, video clip, and that's it. So you can't detect that. So I know the NCA is working on what do you call it, Ghana Artificial Intelligence Policy, and I'm sure very soon they will launch that. But we need public education, which is very important. most of these platforms, by policy, they should be educating people as to how to even detect fake news and how to make sure that you also don't become a promoter of fake news, because you can be liable for promoting fake news or something that is, against the community
sharing the
policy
content.
of a criminal in Ghana. And for me, we need to push that as government. NCA, I'm sure, can push that. The ministry too can also push that. And the media houses should partner with some of these platforms so that when things like this happen, you can quickly report it to their support services line to have the issues resolved. And for me, I think you should start by suing Meta for that, for using their platform, for somebody to use that platform to impersonate you and also commercialize that particular content. They will pay attention.
We'd just like you to hold on briefly while we show our viewers an example of what we're talking about, so that you have a clearer picture. When you see something like this, just know that it's not from Joy News.
Organs, thrombosis, terrible complications arising from improper treatment of hypertension. Ghanaians are unaware of this and are convinced that hypertension cannot be cured. Today on air, Dr. Johnson Haynes will talk about a drug from the USA that effectively fights hypertension like a common cold.
There is a real epidemic of cardiovascular disease in Ghana, 57% among people over the age of 35. Thousands of people die every year due to inappropriate treatment. Large private pharmacies are restricting access to effective drugs for profit. We are compelled to immediately launch a national program, Ghana Heart Wellbeing, by procuring a batch of an American remedy. This drug normalizes blood pressure, clears arteries of blood clots, promotes regeneration of damaged internal organs, eliminating hypertension and its terrible complications in just one course. Bypassing commercial pharmacies, we offer the drug at a 50% discount. Find out all the details on the official website.
For a long time, I suffered from high blood pressure, especially in recent years. Treatment in hospital was not effective. The complications worsened. Constant dizziness, kidney problems, threatened loss of vision, even loss of consciousness. The doctor suggested a risky operation. Despair gripped me. My wife's support and an article about Cardioactive on the internet turned everything around. After undergoing treatment, my blood pressure returned to normal. My damaged kidneys and retinas recovered. My doctor was amazed. The test.
So a few things you notice there. So you see, for example, that there's something funny happening around Benjamin's lip. They do such a good job at getting his voice right. But you can see that there's a problem with the lip sync. So just look at the lips carefully. You can see that there's just something off. Then you can also just compare where you see the AM show in red, right, at the bottom left corner of what you're seeing right now, and what you see down there, they don't look the same. And also you can see that for our text on the blue part, it's scrolling, it's not static like what you're seeing there, where earlier you could see, all right, so it's come up a bit now. So you can see the difference. Ours moves, that is static, and then also the time. And also the Joy News logo has a moving globe in there, but that one is static. So we just want to do this because many of you are falling victim to this. We quickly need to wrap up, but my last question to you, Maximus, is that it appears that AI is complicating our world. We know that there are benefits to this, but it's getting complicated, especially for those of us in this part of the world where it's difficult to haul the meta boss, what's his name again?
Mark Zuckerberg.
It's difficult to hold him before Ghana's parliament and have him answer questions, right? So for those of us in this part of the world, it's increasingly getting complicated in terms of the negative impact of AI and advanced technology. Sorry, Maximus, can you unmute your device, please?
Sorry. So we all have, data exchanges. You know what happened in Nigeria between Twitter and the Nigerian government? All they did is, turn off Twitter in Nigeria, and they paid attention. Now they have a regional office an office in Nigeria. They have a country director who, liaises with the government of Nigeria. And they put a lot of things in place because of just that. Ghana can really do that. The minister can say today, Facebook, based on A, B, C, D, we can't monitor the sanity of your platform. If we don't do A, B, C, D, we are shutting Facebook down for the next 1 week. If the issue is not resolved, we will extend it. They will pay attention, right? It's quite difficult because even though businesses are using the platform, but the issue is that we need to sanitize the social media platform. Otherwise, we'll become victims of the same, solutions that is helping us. For me, there are even apps, AI apps that you can even synthesize the voice better and even doing the video better that you cannot even tell the difference. There's even an anti, how do you call it, AI, deep fake AI apps that when you do the video, you can still run within the video to make sure it's not detectable. And it's happening in the US. Even President Barack Obama, they had a deep fake of him. They've done it to Donald Trump. They've done it to influential people, even in the US. And people couldn't tell the difference. The issue is that now this particular content is health related. Can you imagine if it's breaking news or something that we are just used to that, aligns with the theme that we talk about? It will be believable. And heading into the elections and all that, this is going to be like a commonplace. And
absolutely right.
For me, we need to have, the policy makers, and then the gatekeepers to have these platforms, regulated.
Maximus, just to cap off from my end, just so those faceless people behind this know what the consequences are. This is a crime. What happens to anyone who is caught involved in something like this? Just so everybody knows.
I think you should sue them. You should sue them, including even those who are buying it, because you are selling it as a product that's not maybe certified by or approved by whoever, and whoever bought it and how they even bought it. So the means of payment can also be traced to the originators of the video, either by Momo or card payment or whatever. It should be traceable. So I think you should report to the cyber security authority. And the CI. They have very competent people. That one I guarantee you, and they can work to find out the culprit.
Thank you so much, Maximus. Maximus Ametogo is a data analyst and IC consultant, and I just couldn't help but realize that on the front page of the Custodian today, fake news is Ghana's major security threat, according to Albert Kandapa. And going into the elections, that's such a crucial point, and this is something that we must all look into. Mr. Ametogo is asking policymakers, the cybercrime unit of the Ghana Police Service, and even if Parliament could look into coming up with policies that protect all of us from some of these criminal elements. But that's all time will permit us, Benjamin.
Indeed, and it's good that we've brought this to the fore. We'll keep sensitizing all our viewers on these matters. And of course, you can expect nothing but the best from us tomorrow as we come back on the AM show.
Right, it's goodbye from us, but up next is News Desk with Aisha Ibrahim. Do stay.